Hello and welcome to Hold Up. We're on my side. There we go. Hold Up, a movie podcast where Murphy's on the right and I am on the left. Uh, Thank you for joining us. Well, we are your hosts, as I said, Davan and Chris Worldmind Murphy. And tonight's theme, if you didn't notice from the intro, is Christmas. It's Christmas time. I have a hat. I have a tree. Murphy's
I got
got some
Christmas
sweet lights in the shape of a tree. Don't think I didn't notice.
Wearing my Nirvana Christmas shirt, Gotta.
The Nirvana Christmas album. If he'd have lived, that would have happened.
That could have happened, and it would have been amazing. I would have been for that. Cobain's Cozy Christmas.
I would listen to that too. Yeah. So tonight we are going to review for you and talk probably at some amount of a length about The Apartment from 1960, Gremlins from 1984, and Tokyo Godfathers from 2003. How are you feeling tonight, Murphy?
I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling festive. Feeling the happy ho-ho, if you will, within my veins. It's the 12 nights of Christmas, and I've been enjoying some Christmas movies these past 12 nights. Even though I have to say, your choices for Christmas movies involve misogyny, and, and animal exploitation, and I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Well, look, I got something to say about your pick too, bud. So,
it's
and you know what? I'm not going
to
defend my first pick. I think you'll find. But like, if you make me defend Gremlins, I will fight you, man. I will fight you. Those were puppets. Those were puppets. All right.
So I got words about Gremlins then.
Oh, you better not have words about Gremlins. Look, this is going to be a fiery episode. I'll warn you right now. The fire is going to be pretty simpatico for the first one, and then it's going to get nuts. So, should we jump right into it?
Well, warnings also. Last chance. We're gonna get into spoilers for these movies. They are decades old. So I mean, and hopefully you've watched them by now. If you haven't watched them, go watch them.
Even our newest one is almost 2 decades old.
yeah, it's true. Time catches up with us quickly. But we're gonna be walking over to Theater 1 and checking out the first act. What is that there, Davan?
All right, Theater 1. We have The Apartment from 1960, starring Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine, and Fred MacMurray, directed by Billy Wilder. And I promise you, I didn't see this movie before I picked it, or I wouldn't have. Though it will make for an interesting discussion.
I was so confused as to why you picked this movie. I want to know, what was your initial reason to pick it?
Like I said, I always pick one I haven't seen. And look, Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine, I should have been safe. Okay, those are two extreme talents. I love Jack Lemmon, man. And you know what?
He's a good
Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine aren't bad in this movie. But I mean, we could talk about their characters, but their performances are quite good. That's probably the last good thing I'm going to say about this movie. So let's get into it, I guess. Do you hit a trailer for these? I can't remember our format.
I do have a trailer for these, since I was stupid as to forget to make the coming attractions for last episode. We are going to be witnessing the trailers.
They're especially important.
Yeah, so they're especially important this time. So we're going to be witnessing full trailers, and we're starting off right here. Now, if I can find it, just bear with me. There it is with The Apartment.
Ingredient number 1, a very warm, very wonderful story about a boy, a girl, and a very special kind of problem.
Did you hear what I said, Miss Kubelik? I absolutely adore you.
Shut up and deal.
Ingredient number 2, a brilliant cast. Jack Lemmon in a delightful role which gives full rein to Jack's amazing versatility. Shirley MacLaine,
last scene of the first bit.
whose glowing warmth lights up the screen like a Christmas tree. Fred McMurray. This is a Fred McMurray you've never seen
Does this
before.
start off with here's
You
how
see
to
a
make
girl
a
couple of times a
special
week
kind
just
of
for laughs,
movie?
and right away they think you're going to divorce your wife.
Yes,
I ask
yes,
you,
it
is that
did.
fair?
No, sir, it's very unfair, especially to your
Would
wife.
it also
Yeah.
start with the last
Ingredient
scene
number
in the movie?
3, Billy Wilder.
Yes, yes,
There's
it
nothing
did.
quite like that Billy Wilder, some like it hot kind of laughter.
This is kind of funny. I did enjoy the spaghetti bit.
There are some things. Jack Lemmon is...
Are we dressing for dinner?
You know, just come as you are.
Say, you're pretty good with that racket.
You should see my backhand. Where'd you see me
Apparently,
serve the
that was one of
meatballs?
the few scenes Jack Lemmon can like improvise that the writers were
It's one of the
allowed to
best ones in the
improvise.
movie.
Right?
Mildred! He's at it again!
Mildred! Is that it again? Damn, there's action every night. In the apartment. Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine, and Fred McMurray. The apartment is Wilder.
I'm going to apologize for Murphy right now. All of his video clips are going to be way too loud tonight, so be prepared to go up and down with your volume.
Only that one. I've definitely got volume control on like the rest of these, so
Okay.
you know, it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
Okay.
Um,
God, I'm even offended by that trailer. All right, let's get into it.
I mean, wow. Like, okay, let's take a
So,
moment to dissect that
initial
trailer.
thoughts before I do a synopsis? Is that what we're going to do here?
I mean,
Okay.
I kind of feel like it. Like, it's such a terrible movie.
Yeah, it's awful. It's just like 90% misogyny, and
99,
everyone's
really?
unlikable. Everyone's unlikable. Like even Shirley MacLaine's character, who's maybe the most likable, her and Jack Lemmon, they're even like Jack Lemmon's just a callow yes man kind of. Like he's not someone to really like either. You're supposed to feel for him, but you don't. Like he's not even charging these guys. I thought it was like, oh, he's making a little money on the side here at least, but no, he's not.
He's just a putz.
And Shirley MacLaine, her just decision making kind of pisses you off. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, she's swimming in a sea of sharks, so she's just like picking one shark over another. So I mean, you can't fault her that much, I guess. Everyone sucks in this, and probably in the '60s apparently.
Yeah, if this is a reflection of the '60s, like it seems to be, and from some of the movie morsels I dug up on this film, it doesn't paint a pretty picture of the '60s. It's quite like the apex of
and '50s really. I mean, this was just on the cusp of the '60s. This is more reflective of the '50s.
Well, it was filmed in '59.
As far as attitudes,
it was released in 1960, right? So it's literally on the end of the '50s.
It's '50s.
Anyways,
I was surprised it was in black and white because most movies by 1960 are very much in color.
Apparently, this was one of the last black and white films. Actually, like I think it was also one of the last black and white films to win an Academy Award. This movie,
what did it win for?
I don't know. I think it was won an Academy Award. Okay, maybe I misquoted that. Give me a second. Let me. I remember maybe it was a nomination. Oh no! Academy Award for Best Picture in 1961. Academy Award for Best Directing. Golden Globe Awards for Best Motion Picture and Best Actress. Academy Award for Best Film Editing.
This is a product of its time.
For Best Art Direction. Writers Guild of America Award for Best Film.
Like I mentioned this to over on Live Long and Podcast the other night that we were gonna review this, and Adam and Jody had seen it, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, that's a depressing movie," but they certainly didn't say how bad it was. And I'm just thinking, have you guys seen this movie since the world changed? Like,
Yeah. When was
did
the
you
last time
watch
you watched
this in
this? On the tube
1981?
television?
Like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
I mean,
so I'll get into it.
when I saw them say depressing, I was like, I mean, it's a bit, but like, so let's get the
What's
synopsis,
depressing is
shall
it's
we?
2 hours. It's over 2 hours long. That's what's depressing. Like, oh man, 45 minutes into this movie, it felt like it was like for most of this movie, it feels like it's about to end, like plot wise, and then it just keeps going and keeps going,
Yeah,
and you're just like, what am I still doing here? I hate all
yeah.
these people.
Let's get the synopsis of
All
how
right, let's
Jack
get
Lemmon,
into
C.C.
this.
Baxter ran the
Old
world's first
CC Baxter.
Airbnb.
Since look, we run Airbnbs in this household, and this is not an Airbnb. At least not the kind we run. So he works for an insurance company in New York. He's like one of their accountants, it seems. Yeah, like they even have like an accounting section.
Oh, actually, I
So
have
they're
a scene that explains that a bit. Shall I?
No facts
all
about
right.
this because I work for an insurance company, Consolidated Life of New York. We're one of the top 5 companies in the country. Our home office has 31,259 employees, which is more than the entire population of
What's that
Natchez,
building?
Mississippi. I
Which
work
is
on
true
the
at the
19th
time.
floor, ordinary policy
Yeah.
department, premium accounting division, section
Yeah.
W, desk number 861.
It's
My
such a
name is
good
C.C.
shot. This
Baxter,
is actually my
Chief Accountant
favorite
for C-Suite.
shot of the
However,
whole
most people
movie. Is
call
this
me
opening
Baxter.
scene?
I've been with Consolidated for
The
30
director
years, and
winning
10
an
months
award
ago
doesn't
taken the
bother
array
me.
of
It's actually
9470 a
well
week.
directed. It's just I hate everything about what he's directing. But
Yeah.
it does look nice in a lot of ways.
The hours in our department are 8:50 to 5.
I wouldn't be able to stay in that room for 5 minutes. I can't believe people work in such an environment. I'd freak out and go hug a tree after
They're
5
staggered
minutes.
by floors so that 16 elevators can handle the
Right.
31,259 employees without a serious traffic jam.
Oh my god.
It's so
As for
crowded.
myself, I very often stay on at the office and work for an extra
Soul
hour
crushing,
or
man.
two,
Like this
especially if the
movie.
weather is bad. It's not that I'm overly ambitious. It's just a way of killing time until it's all right for me to go home.
Yeah. Is that why? So he has to stay late at work because people are often using his apartment. So there are 4 higher ups in his company that to ingratiate himself to them, he lets them, sleep around and bang their mistresses in his apartment so they don't get caught by their wives. Like this is so misogynistic, man. Like the reason I hate
It's
Jack Lemon's
so
character is he's
misogynistic.
such an enabler. He's fine with all this cheating.
See, I have this
Like he's such a detached, callow, friggin' loser, man. I
Yeah.
don't like him.
Well, that's kind of one of the
But
main
he's still
themes of the
better than
movie.
everyone else. Like compared to all the other characters, you're like, well, I guess he's not so bad. Like it's just because they're all so friggin' horrible.
Well,
Uh,
that's one of the main themes of this movie is that basically the doctor challenges him to become a mensch, which is basically like
yeah,
the Jewish term for an
a good,
honorable man and stuff.
yeah,
Like a good guy
human. He's
and
like, be a human,
human
man.
being, yeah, human being, right? And
Be a mensch.
I guess that's his journey of discovery throughout this movie. Ultimately, is he stops learning to be a cuck,
Yeah,
and he
but like,
starts.
but Shirley MacLaine's character thinks he's this right good guy, while he's still a callow, enabling loser. Like she's like, "Oh, well, at least you're the nice guy in the office," kind of thing, like in the elevator. Anyway, I'll get back into the synopsis. Or I'll never get into it. Oh my god. So like I say, the 4 higher ups. One of them is played by the actor who plays Boothby in Star Trek, by the way. So I find that hilarious. One of these cheaters. um so he's getting sick of the situation, basically. But he's too weak-willed to do anything about it. But eventually he sort of starts to benefit from it, where he does get promotions and things. But he's got a crush on this elevator operator back in the day when like somebody had to like press the elevator button for you. Uh, yeah, Fran Kubelik. played by Shirley MacLaine. Now, I will say this is the first time I've seen Shirley MacLaine as a young actress. Like, I've seen Jack Lemmon as a young actor before, but I've only ever seen Shirley MacLaine as like an older woman. And I
Mhm.
gotta say, she's quite beautiful, actually. And she looks, because of her hair, I guess, she looks kind of like a modern woman in this. And, she's very beautiful.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
and like this was, I think this was like one of the beginning scenes, is this elevator scene where the misogyny really starts to kick up a little.
Oh, because he smacks her on the ass.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah,
One of these days, I'm going to shut these doors on you, and
No, you should have stabbed him in the neck. Like,
Cuban.
you
yeah.
should have
Boy,
pulled out a
I'd like
pen
to get
and
her on
stabbed
a
him in the
slow
neck.
elevator to China.
She's the best operator in the building.
Well, I'm a pretty good operator
My
myself.
God. I can't imagine being a
Tumble
woman in the
grade-wise.
workplace
Maybe you're
back
using
then,
the wrong
man.
approach. Yeah, a lot of guys
Dude, this
around
guy's
here
gonna be
try
like
all kinds of
pushing
approaches.
58, and he's
Those
like,
guys-
I'm a pretty good operator myself, with a popped blue pill.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So that's a thing. Uh,
Fran
so
Kubelik, I believe her name is.
yeah, Fran Kubelik. He just calls her Miss Kubelik. Everyone's very professional. They call each other Mr. and Miss. Like they've been like near the end of the movie, Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine are still calling each other like Mr. or Miss Kubelik and Mr. Baxter.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the three higher ups, but not the main guy, are glowing about Jack Lemmon's character. And so the real boss, Mr. Sheldrake, played by Fred McMurray, he thinks he figures out there's something going on with Baxter. They're like they never brag about workers. They don't care. Why are they like hyping you up? So he calls him into his office. He's just like, dude, like, why do these guys love you so much? He's just like, oh, I'm a hard worker and blah blah blah. He's like, no, no, no. Look, I know what's going on here, Baxter, and I'm gonna use your apartment myself. How's that sound?
This is probably one of my favorite scenes too.
Oh yeah, this isn't a bad scene actually.
It's just really good blocking, and
Look, there are things in this movie that aren't terrible. It's just everyone's so detestable, it's hard to get through. Like, you can see how back in 1960, when people are used to being super misogynistic and sexist and stuff like that, where they would think this is a good movie. This is the kind of movie that our podcast is made for, because we ask the question, does it hold up? And this movie will be lost in time. Sad, because you know what? Jack Lemmon is one hell of a performer.
also, I just want to say, don't use nasal mist, kids. That stuff is terrible for you.
Oh yeah, I don't think they even sell that anymore, do they?
They still very much sell nasal mist.
Oh wow, yeah, don't use that stuff. Just have yourself a nice steam with an essential oil. You'll feel much better. He plays
Dude,
this
the
like
fun-
he was meant to play this character, I will say.
he literally is the sole like thread of interest in this entire movie. Jack Lemmon really
Yeah,
like his back must have been broken because he had to carry this film so hard, and it's only
yeah, he does
accentuated
care.
by the Doctor role, who I personally was a big fan of, but we're jumping a
I
bit ahead.
Oh, bud, we're about to have words. I can't tell you how much I hate that doctor and everything that he does. We'll get into that here when I get there in the synopsis, though. Um, okay, back to my synopsis. So he not only does he want to use Baxter's apartment, he's like, "You're gonna make me a key," because normally he just like hands the key or like leaves the
Leaves it
key
under
under
the
the
mat.
mat for whoever is gonna use his apartment next. Which is like, you know what's funny? They never show him doing any laundry. Like they're
Well, I
banging all
mean,
over his apartment. They show him like refilling the fridge, and he keeps it stocked with alcohol for them and things like that. But you never see him do any laundry.
doesn't really
So
wash the sheets, does he?
I
Yeah.
don't think he's washing the sheets, man. So Mr. Sheldrake's trying to butter up Baxter, so he's just like, you give me the key and you can use these tickets. He's giving him tickets to a popular show at the theater downtown. And Baxter just doesn't want to do it. Like I said, he's sick of this whole situation. He just wants his apartment back because he wants to stay at work for extra hours and go sleep on dirty, soiled sheets, you know? But, you know, he makes the best of it, and he asks Miss Kubelik out to the show. And she agrees, or I think she like doesn't at first, but eventually she agrees. And um, she ends up bailing on him because it turns out she's having an affair with Sheldrake, or like had been,
Old
and he's trying to get her
Sheldrake.
back. Old Sheldrake. Um, so she goes to hit Jack Lemon's apartment while he's waiting for her at the theater, which is kind of funny, I guess, in a horrible way.
Yeah.
But then she realizes, well, so next we cut to like an office party, and this is Christmas Eve, and this is where it becomes sort of like a Christmas movie.
They went ham for these office parties in the 50s, man.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
they went crazy. And Billy Wilder said, he's like, these are my favorite days to film, when I can literally just set up my camera, yell action, and sit back and relax and let everybody just go nuts. This guy's got no pants on.
yeah, they're having a time.
Everyone's
People are
making
making
out
out.
with everyone, and there's a lot of old
This is
men making out with
1960,
like
man.
20-year-old women.
Yeah, see, and those old men are married at home. They have an old lady at home. like literally everyone in this office is cheating with someone who works in this
I
office.
said to him never again. Either you get yourself a bigger car or a smaller girl.
Miss Kubelik? Miss... Merry Christmas.
Thank you. But you were avoiding me.
What gave you that idea?
In the last 6 weeks, you've only
Shirley
been
MacLaine
married
is
once.
very
You can
charming.
Take off your hat.
Well, as a
Yeah.
matter of fact, I was rather hurt that night you stood me up.
I don't blame you. It was unforgivable.
I forgive
He
you.
isn't though. Jack Lemon's
You
great,
couldn't
but
help
he's
yourself.
not
When
charming.
you
The
have a
whole
pretty
time
young
you're
man,
like
you can
wondering
certainly
why
walk
she
out
would
on him.
like
You
him
could
at
have
all.
another date with another
Like-
man.
I mean,
You
at,
did the only
at
decent
first
thing.
he's kind of like
Sure,
nice and
just because I
charming,
wear
but
a
at this
uniform,
point
that
he's
doesn't
just
make me a Girl
becoming
Scout.
blinded by like
Miss
the
Kubelik, one doesn't
carrot
get to
in
be
front
a
of him,
second administrative assistant around
and he's
here
trying
Yeah.
to
unless you're a
peacock
judge of
really
character.
hard, and he
As
becomes
far as I'm
insufferable
concerned,
for
you're
it.
tops. I
He
mean,
does, yeah.
decency-wise and otherwise wise. Cheers.
So Sheldrake's secretary, he used to have an affair with her too. He's basically had an affair with most of the office, probably. But the secretary who he keeps on, and that's probably a mistake, which he rectifies later. But really, he's the problem, not her. Um, she's basically ratting on him, not only to his wife, but also to eventually his wife, but first to Fran here. Um, so Fran gets this information that, you know, Sheldrake doesn't really care about her. He's not going to leave his wife and all these things.
He said the same
So,
song and dance several times. I was
yeah,
gonna
yeah, to
leave
her,
the
exactly.
kids.
Like he told me
Yeah.
the same thing. Yeah.
And
So
he
she ends
he
up,
told Mrs. K the same thing, and he told that pretty redhead the same thing, and she started like listing like all these girls before
yeah.
Kubelik, and yeah.
So back at Baxter's apartment, she confronts Sheldrake about this. And, you know, he gives her a bunch of bullshit. But then she leaves. And it's funny because Baxter actually picked up somebody at the bar, and he's trying to come back to his apartment to have his own good time. But when they get in there, he finds Fran in his bed all passed out because she basically tried to commit suicide. She ate a bunch of sleeping pills, which is a lot. We're doing Christmas movies, but there's certainly a lot of suicide in these movies. I mean, not Gremlins, but so
No, but there was a lot of
so
murder in Gremlins.
well, yeah, that's a good time. Uh, so he calls his next door neighbor's the doctor, who I hate, and he calls him over to help Fran. And like their whole remedy is basically they just pick her up and just walk her around the apartment for hours. They skip through that luckily, but like they're hours just walking her around.
Well, yeah, they try and feed force drink her coffee, and then they also give her a shot of adrenaline, I believe.
Yeah, they're just worried that if they just don't want her to go to sleep, which again is antiquated. That's not true. Your brain, if you have a brain problem, your brain actually heals better if you're asleep. Like people always just like if you get a concussion, don't let them sleep, don't let them sleep. They did that to me when I fell out of a shopping cart when I was a kid. But turns out you should let someone with a head injury sleep because their brain will heal better if they're sleeping. So, yay, modern medicine.
So
Oh
you
my
definitely
God.
shouldn't do
I
this.
hate him so much. I hate him so much. So he's loving this. The actor, the director, they're all loving this shit. And oh my God, I can't even watch it, man. I hate this so much.
Okay,
So
I'm
here's the thing.
gonna have a movie morsel about that scene in
Okay.
particular that was
Oh man, I
that
don't think it'll make it any better.
explains it.
But not
It
only when
doesn't
he's
make it
done
better, but it
slapping her,
explains it.
he grabs her face like this, and he's just whipping her head around like this, grabbing her face super hard. Like if I was here during filming, I probably would have ran over there and just like started punching the guy. Like he's abusing this woman who's just hired as an actress. Like this isn't fake. He's like, and that's the thing about old movies, man. A good old movie is a movie where whenever a woman says anything that's just like somehow heightened, she doesn't get the shit shook out of her or slapped out of her. Like that's so common in these days in these movies. It's just the woman's just like, "Well, I don't agree." There's like, "Well, why don't you agree with me? What's wrong with you?" Like, man, this movie's hard to watch, and I hate that doctor because he's an abusive asshole. Slaps the shit out
I
of his
mean,
and
he's
then grabs their face and
okay.
throws them around. He's literally
Okay,
the worst guy in this whole friggin' movie,
you
man.
need to gear down just a little.
No, we're gearing up for this one, bud.
No, hang on. I'm not one to by any means defend the abuse of women by any means. However, this is a doctor of 1959, and
You don't care.
medical advice
There
in this
must have been
time
doctors in
was to do
1959
these
that didn't slap the
these
shit out of their patients. There had to have been.
No, apparently when they were okay, I'm just gonna give a movie morsel right now for
right.
this scene because you're getting so worked up about it. So there needs to be some
hate him.
explanation behind it.
Getting a preemptive morsel here because I'm getting worked up. This movie is full of the worst people.
Okay. During the scene where Fran overdoses on sleeping pills, doctors were actually present on the set to advise accuracy on how to revive her. The harsh slaps that the doctor performs to keep Fran from becoming unconscious were all real. However, after the scene, the doctor told Billy Wilder that the actor should have slapped Shirley MacLaine harder. Wilder refused to shoot it again, though, after looking at MacLane's red cheeks from being slapped so many times.
She should, if she's still alive, she should sue the shit out of whatever friggin' movie company made this, if they're still around, like Universal or whoever it is. She should sue the shit out of them, man. I feel like doing it. Like, ridiculous. And then did I tell him to grab her face afterwards and be like, "Ah, are you listening to me, Fran? Are you listening to me?" While I dig my fingers into your jaw? Like, God, man. The worst.
So this was definitely not Davan's favorite.
And those doctors aren't doctors. They are just people who loved slapping women. That's why they advise this. There's no medical reason to slap the shit out of somebody. They just like doing it. Okay, so the doctors they hired were friggin' quacks, man. Movie morsel or not. All right, I'm gonna get back into it. I'm so mad.
I agree with you.
This movie just made me so mad. I'm like, this is supposed to be a Christmas movie.
I was pretty appalled watching it. I was just like, this is an atrocious film.
Oh, it's so atrocious. All right,
let's wrap this up.
All right, we'll get back into it. All right. So Baxter calls Sheldrake and he's just like, "Hey, your mistress is over here like dying or whatever because you dumped her, and maybe you should talk to her." And he's just like, "Oh, Baxter, you know what? I trust you to handle this situation." Yeah, gave her $100, which he wants to give back to him because she actually got him a Christmas present. which
Yes,
was
she
very
got him a cool
thoughtful and
Christmas present.
romantic. Yeah,
I
and
I
he's just like,
I
"Well, I
want
have something for you as well." And he just pulls out his wallet and he's just like, "Here, $100. Get yourself something
okay,
nice."
hang on. Let me talk about the scene real quick because this is kind of how we do
Okay.
this. The rickshaw boy scene. This is what this made me pause the movie and I'm like, what is this album? I need to look this album up. And it was called Rickshaw Boy. It turns out that the album is supposed to be an album written by the
That was the
diner
play,
owner.
wasn't it? Rickshaw Boy.
I don't
Where they
know
were
if it was
gonna
a
go. No,
play.
that was the record that they had.
The record, yeah, the record that
Yeah,
she
the record.
gave
Yeah, yeah,
Sheldrake. The record that she
yeah,
gave
yeah.
Sheldrake was called Rickshaw Boy, which is apparently an album that was performed and written by the diner owner that her and Sheldrake went to.
Mhm.
I got excited thinking there was like some old school album out there called Rickshaw Boy because I used to be a pedicab driver and I was like, oh, I know that lifestyle. Let me look this up. The best I could do was find two songs called Rickshaw Boy, um, and I meant to bring them as examples to play, and I forgot to do that. So
Look him up, people. Look up Rickshaw
yeah,
Boy.
look up the song Rickshaw Boy. Um, they're pretty funny songs. I think they're not really like so much songs. They're all right. They're all right. It's a little Rickshaw Boy by Dennis Farnan, and I forget the other one. But yeah, there's at least two songs called Rickshaw Boy. No albums, but yeah, that was a pause worthy moment for me in this movie. Oh yeah, Duffy Ravencroft from
Okay.
1958. Actually, Duffy Ravencroft's Rickshaw Boy from 1958. That one was
So that was
actually
like a
pretty good.
popular phrase or like something of the time. Like Rickshaw Boy was in the zeitgeist of the late 50s.
Yeah.
That's what that suggests.
Anyway, I digress.
So Baxter and Kubelik, it's noticed that they're not at work because he's just staying home trying to take care of her. And everyone assumes they're having an affair. And then Kubelik's taxi driver brother-in-law comes looking for her.
Oh
And he's
wait,
like a tough
before he does
guy.
that,
Rufus,
he
I
gets
wonder
her
if I could borrow some
breakfast.
coffee and maybe an orange
Oh,
and a
right.
couple of eggs.
Eggs, he asks me for. Oranges. What you need is a good hospital.
That's the doctor's
Tell
wife.
me the doctor has no secrets. Poor girl. How could you do a thing like that?
I
They
wouldn't
think he
do
drugged
anything,
her
honest.
or
It's just
otherwise
look,
made her so depressed that she
get her out
drugged
a couple of
herself.
times a week, just
Yeah.
for laughs. And right away she thinks you're getting serious, marriage-wise.
Big shot. For you, I wouldn't lift a finger.
But for her, I'll make her some breakfast, she said, and is going
Yeah.
on to say. But they think he's this great scumbag because every night they'd hear the knocking and the screaming from all the like the
But
romantic
for her, I'll fix a
uh,
little something to eat.
engagements.
I'll fix a little something to eat. Yeah, they call them.
Yeah.
He's always like making a racket. He's like, he's like, he's at it again. He's always yelling.
He's at it again. And like there's one funny scene later where the doctor's coming home and he just sees some random woman knocking on the door, being like, "Let me in, are we gonna have fun?" And he's just like, "Oh my god!" And he runs in to tell his wife. That was kind of funny. But okay, back to the synopsis of this movie, if you want to call it that. So the brother-in-law comes looking for Fran because she's been missing for days, and she lives with her sister and him. Well, first he shows up to the office looking for her. And they say, "Well, she's here, so go look for her here." And so basically, Baxter draws the line. He's just like, "I'm not doing it anymore." And so he actually gets. I mean, he keeps getting promoted. He gets promoted once, and then he gets promoted again. But he tells Sheldrake that. Well, I'm getting a bit of ahead of it, I guess. So the brother-in-law kind of beats the shit out of Baxter, punches him up pretty good anyway, and so Sheldrake fires his secretary because he finds out that she told on him. Classic move. Like, man, I hate the Sheldrake so much, and I don't even like his face. Like, I would like to see this actor in something else to see if it's just him or if it's the character. But I cannot stand that guy. He seems like that kind of a guy. I hate to like judge
Uh,
someone by their
uh,
face, but like
apparently,
he looks exactly like that guy. Like
Apparently, was it Frank McMurray?
Frank
I think that was his
McMurray.
name. Yeah,
Yeah.
apparently he's like known for being in very wholesome, like family-friendly roles.
Really?
And this was
Wow.
quite the opposite.
This was
of
him
what he
stepping
was
outside
known
of his.
for.
Okay.
A little bit, yeah.
Now,
yeah.
a family friendly in the
For that
50s, he
too.
was still probably smacking the wife around, so it's only so family friendly. And probably the kids too, for that matter. Okay. So back to the synopsis. So the secretary ends up telling Sheldrake's wife, so he gets kicked out. And he's like living at the athletic club, but he can't take his mistresses there because the athletic club is only for men. So he still wants to use Baxter's apartment. And Baxter's is like, no, like we're not doing it anymore. And he's just like, look, Baxter, if you don't let me do this, you're basically fired. So Baxter pulls out a key, and he's like, give me the key. So he gives Sheldrake the key. And he walks out and he's grabbing his coat and he's about to leave. And it's just like Sheldrake's like, oh, you gave me the wrong key. This is the key to they have like an executive bathroom. And he's just like, no, that's the right key. And then he just walks out. So he finally does the right thing and becomes slightly better a person. Well, it is America. There's got to be a gun lying around.
Say, Baxter, we're having a little party. We ran out of ice. I was wondering.
Sure, Doc.
How come you're alone on New Year's Eve?
Well, I got things to do.
What's this? You're packing?
Yeah, giving up the apartment.
Where are you moving to?
I don't know.
Yeah,
All I
he
know
even
is I
hates the
gotta get out of
apartment
this
now.
place.
It's like it's just
Sorry
bad
to
like
lose you, Baxter.
memories on how
Me?
friggin' weak he was.
Give me my body.
It's got
Or you
old
go to
man
university,
paint
Doc.
stank in it. I don't blame him.
Oh, yeah, it must stink
Booze
in
we
there.
don't
Something
need.
awful.
Say,
In the
why
60s,
don't you
come
join
on
us?
now.
We got 2
Dude,
brain
that
surgeons,
place
ear, nose, and
literally
throat
looks like it
specialists,
smells bad.
a proctologist, and 3
it does.
nurses from Bellevue.
No, thanks. I don't feel like it.
Then he
Look,
cooks pasta
Doc,
on a
in case I
friggin'
don't see
tennis
you
racket.
again, how much do I owe you for
And-
taking care of that girl?
Forget it. I didn't.
I don't know
do
if
it,
you
Doc.
noticed,
I did it
but
as a
like
neighbor.
days after she's
By the
gone,
way,
he like pulls up
what
the
happened
racket
to
and there's
her?
still a wet noodle.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
Days after he
Actually.
made spaghetti.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
that was actually fun. See, there are
Happy
things
New
in
Year.
this, like the direction was quite good. Other than he let that dickhead there slap the shit out of Shirley MacLaine. That's not a good director's move, man. There are ways to fake this shit, even in the 60s, but they didn't care. They were just like, the director's just like, yeah, go slap the shit out of Shirley
come home
MacLaine.
half an
She
hour
should
later, you would have to
sue
write a
the
Christmas
shit
present.
out of them. There are ways to fake that.
He
Oh, I
even
don't
grabs
know.
her by the
Turn that
hair.
off. Turn that off. Turn that off. I don't even want to see
I don't
it.
know. I don't know how.
Get rid of it. Yeah, you do. Don't do this to me, Murphy. All right. So Fran finds out about all this. About Sheldrake, because she was even going to take him back again, which is what makes her a very unlikable character. Like, she's just... Like he's so easy to see through. Like, she didn't need the secretary to tell her that Sheldrake was a piece of shit. It was very obvious. Maybe not in the 60s, but man, very obvious. Like he's cheating on his wife with her. So obviously he's a piece of shit. Like, I don't like when someone draws the line. It's just like, oh well, like this is what kind of fucking pisses me off about Star Trek too, because like Gene Roddenberry was banging Majel Barrett and Nichelle Nichols, and she's just like, Nichelle Nichols broke it off because she's like, I don't want to be the other woman to the other woman. It's just like, well, you were for a while. Like, anyway, people have such flexible morals, man. Back then, it's like whatever. I mean, you got to survive, I guess, but man, it's very frustrating.
Well, after all the hardship and the suicide attempts.
Oh, this is the last scene that they start the trailer off with. How do you start the trailer off with the last scene in the movie?
I know.
I've never seen that before. That's insane.
I love you, Miss Kubelik.
Yes, they even have him say that. Like, this is literally the conclusion of the movie.
I absolutely adore you.
Was that the real
Shut up,
trailer? Did
dear.
they really have trailers that they played
Yeah,
back
that was
then?
the official
Like,
trailer.
it would be
I
in a
always look
theater,
for the
you'd go
official
into it.
trailer. Yeah.
Like, you could only see trailers back then in the theater. They didn't play them on TV. So you'd have to go to see a movie, and I guess they would probably end or start it with the trailer. I feel like they would come at the end back then. I'll have to look that up. When they actually played trailers.
I couldn't honestly remember
Back
if it
in
was.
those
I
days.
think
They definitely weren't on
back in the day it was
TV.
around the end. Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't on TV. But yeah, to wrap up this classic piece of shit movie, basically Shirley MacLaine's Frank.
They play gin rummy.
They play Jim Rummy after she goes through a bout of suicide attempts and jilted lovers with old men that are twice her age. She realizes that the man that's roughly her age is probably the better option, so she goes to play Jim Rummy, asks him to deal.
Murray's an ogre, man. It's not even like he's an attractive older man. He's just like friggin' ogre. Like, anyway. Oh, God. I mean, maybe it's the power. I don't know. But anyway, that's the synopsis. So eventually those two get together and you're supposed to be happy about it, but I'm not.
No.
Let's
Mostly
stop
just
talking about the
appalled.
apartment. Is there any
Wait,
final
do
thoughts?
you want to?
I've explained how much I hate everything in this movie. Jack Lemmon, though, is a great actor. You can get that from this, even though it's horrible. He's clearly one of the best.
So Jack Lemmon's probably your favorite actor in the film.
Oh yeah, let's get into it. Well, we did the plot, and that was horrible. Well, let's do this one. This would be interesting. Which scene would you hold up, Murphy?
You know, did I? Oh, I had it set up, but I think I might have actually removed it from the thing. The one scene that I kind of liked was when the one scene I would say held up the most for me was the opening apartment scene. Just the forced perspective shot and how like they made it seem super busy. Like that was the strongest portion of this film was kind of like the opening dialogue and
however most people call it.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree with
just
you.
the whole
Actually,
thing.
it's all a downhill friggin' slide from there.
A real steep slide to
Yeah,
Shipville.
man. I agree with you. I started off, I'm like, oh, this is like well directed and this could be all right, but no, it's not.
Yeah.
So, which performance would you hold up? For me, again, it is Jack Lemmon. He's clearly very good. Shirley MacLaine
Jack
is very
Lemmon,
charming and beautiful, but I would hold up Jack Lemmon. And honestly, as much as he plays a horrible person, Boothby, he was the best of all the like a cheater higher ups in the company. The guy who plays Boothby in Star Trek.
I think I know what guy you're talking about. Yeah. Let me pull this up real quick.
Hello, Mr. Dobish.
Dobish, that's him. Dobish is Boothby. There he is. Yeah, see, it's Boothby.
I'm sorry about that mess on the living room wall. You see, my little friend, she kept insisting Picasso was a bum, so she started to do that mural.
Hey, Murphy, what was that mess on the living room wall?
To my apartment. You're supposed to leave it under the mat.
But I did, didn't I? I just
don't
remember bending over and putting it
I don't want to answer that.
The key, all right. Only it's the wrong key.
It is?
The wrong key.
Well, how about that? No wonder I couldn't get into the executive washroom this morning.
And I couldn't get into my apartment. So at 4 a.m., I gotta wake up the landlady.
All right, get it. That's Boothby.
Yeah, that's Boothby.
That's the performance I would hold up. What about you, Jack Lemmon?
You know what? Honestly, for me, it's this guy.
Oh, don't even say.
The doctor.
Good evening, Baxter.
We're done here. We're done here.
Yeah, some clown at
Episode over. I don't need Slappy McGee here.
I'm not saying it was great, but I felt he acted the role really well.
Yeah, he's Will Smith's hero. What?
Well, that's not me. I mean, it's just once in a while I have a few people in for a drink.
As a matter of fact, you must be an Iron Man all around. From what I hear through the walls, you got something going for you every night.
He does love ribbing Jack Lemmon about his promiscuous nature, and that can be kind of funny.
Right? Like, that's what I was digging out of the character.
He's just saying there, little, but he keeps telling him it's a bad idea. He's like, look, you're going to die young if you keep living like that. Like, it's not good for you.
When you make out your will and the way you're going, you should.
Yeah, see, there it
Would
is.
you mind leaving your body to the university?
That was a funny
My
line,
body.
too, actually.
I'm
I
afraid you
didn't
got
hate
some
that doctor till he
disappointment.
slapped the shit out of Shirley MacLaine.
Slow down, kid.
And then I did. Yeah. The setting aesthetic was actually quite good.
Yeah, the
I'll
setting
give it
aesthetic was kind of cool. I like it was interesting. I'll give it that. You know.
Especially in
Yeah,
the
it
opening,
was.
like the building and the room, and even the
Yeah,
apartment. Like it feels lived in for certain.
Yeah,
Doesn't feel like a set.
whole. Yeah, it doesn't. Even though I think it was actually, which is ironic.
It probably was, yeah.
Yeah, because like technically, the layout doesn't entirely work with the way his neighbor was, or something like that. Anyway, I guess this is the point when we get into some movie morsels about the apartment. What do you say?
Murphy, get on to those movie morsels. I'll be back in before you're done. I swear.
All right. All right, so with the apartment in 1960, to create the effect of a vast sea of faces laboring grimly and impersonally at their desks in the huge insurance company's office, designer Alex Trauner and Edward G. Boyle devised an interesting technique. They used full-size actors that sat at the desks in the front, and children dressed in suits were used at tiny desks towards the rear, followed by even smaller desks with cutout figures operated by wires. It gave the effect of a much larger space than could have been achieved with a limited studio screen. And this is where I wow Davan with that information. So this whole scene here, you can tell is it's got actors up in the front, but it also has like kids in the back just working away in suits. Like, it's kind of funny, really, when you think about it. And I will digress. I'm losing steam here. Right. So that was the first one. Then on the Office Christmas Party scene was actually filmed on December 23rd, 1959. So as to catch everybody in the proper holiday mood, Billy Wilder filmed almost all of it on the first take, stating to Observer, "I wish it were this easy today. I can just shout action and stand back." Billy Wilder and I.L. Diamond would not allow even the slightest deviation from the script. Shirley MacLaine drove them crazy with her ad-libbing. She was forced to do one of the elevator scenes 5 times because she kept missing one word. And then Billy Wilder would then give Jack Lemmon free rein to fill in the character of C.C. Bud Baxter in performance. He compared the actor favorably to Charles Chaplin and thought he could do no wrong. Which, like, okay, so nobody's can deviate from the script, but Jack, he's good. He's basically Chaplin. And then we've got for this was the last black and white movie to win Best Picture at the Academy Awards until The Artist in 2011 and Schindler's List in 1993, which won in 94. It was not completely black and white, as some scenes were in color, like the girl in the red coat and the candle at the beginning.
No movies must have came out that year, Murphy. It must have been just
1961.
Must have been just this movie. There must have been a strike, a writer's strike or something. It must have been just this.
The film was lauded by Soviet bloc critics as an indictment of the American system and a story that could only have happened in capitalistic city like New York. At a dinner honoring him.
Okay, I got to cut you off for a second here, Murphy. Sorry.
Okay.
Here's the problem. Like, you get the impression while watching this movie that it's a 1960s attempt to say that misogyny is bad. But when 95% of your movie is misogyny and that message is just very thinly veiled, like it barely says that it's not effective. It's not an effective means to portray that message if that's what they were going for. And I think they probably were, because the shitty higher ups in the company are so over the top shitty, but everyone is. Like, so where's the shining light through all of this? You know, man.
There really wasn't much of a shining light through all of this. Like I said, when
No.
I first told you, I'm like, that was some Christmas movie. like it
There's
was
a Christmas tree.
really misogyny. Oh, fucking cat in your fur. Sorry, baby.
Yeah,
You gotta
look,
go.
this is not a Christmas movie. I mean, I guess it is because it happens at Christmas, but compared to the other two movies, it's not. This is barely a Christmas movie. This is like the I Heart Huckabees of environmentalism. This time I messed up and not Murphy.
I had that very thought of like
Yeah,
this is a Christmas
yeah.
movie as to what I Heart Huckabees
My
is
bad.
environmentalism.
We're just gonna fuck up back and forth on this podcast, so next time it's Murphy's turn to pick a friggin' unrelatable movie.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive back into these because like I try to there's some movie morsels to this film. You missed some decent ones, but you'll have to catch it on the
Did
replay.
any of them make the movie less reprehensible?
No, not. I mean, some of it highlights a lot of stuff about it. Let me just get into this, please. The film was lauded by Soviet bloc critics as an indictment of the American system and a story that could only have happened in a capitalistic city like New York. At a dinner honoring him in East Berlin, Billy Wilder said the movie could happen anywhere in Hong Kong, Tokyo, Rome, Paris, London. When Wilder said the one place it could not have happened was Moscow, the East Germans broke into thunderous applause and cheers. When the ovation died down, Wilder continued, "The reason this picture could not have taken place in Moscow is that in Moscow nobody has his own apartment." The remark was met with grim silence. In the scene where Carl
true or funny. I mean, it's Cold War. They're just bashing the Russians for like any reason.
Exactly. In the scene where Carl punches Baxter, Jack Lemmon was supposed to mime being punched. He failed to move correctly and was accidentally knocked down. Billy Wilder chose to use the shot of the genuine punch in the film to get Fran to look to get Shirley MacLaine's Fran to look genuinely startled with her brother-in-law punches Calvin. Director Billy Wilder smacked together two pieces of 2x4 during the shot. So it's kind of like a nice little technique.
Or you could have let the actress act, but whatever.
Well,
you can't leave the acting to some lady folk.
Jack Lemmon related.
This is making it worse. These morsels are making it worse, Murphy.
Oh boy. Jack Lemmon related later in life how Billy Wilder kept his film editor Doane Harrison on set with him at all times as associate producer and never made a shot until they both discussed it. As a result, he was able to shoot sparingly, cut the film in camera, and eliminate costly setups that might never be used.
I think Billy Wilder is probably a good director.
Yeah, he's definitely a good director. But his choice of film could be questionable.
Yeah.
This is the first Best Picture Oscar winner to specifically refer to a previous winner in the case of two of them. First, Grand Hotel in 1932, which Baxter attempts to watch on his television, but is too long delayed because of commercials. Bud's boss also referred to Bud and Fran having a lost weekend together in Bud's apartment, a reference to Billy Wilder's early Oscar winner, The Lost Weekend from 1945.
Okay. Jack Lemmon do a rewind to next issue, and I'm going to look up all the other movies that came out in 1960.
Okay,
Next episode. Yeah.
Jack Lemmon was playing.
There won't be any, so I don't even have to look up anything.
Jack Lemmon was playing with a nasal spray prop in his dressing room and discovered it gave a sharp squeeze that would squirt 10 feet. He filled it with milk to make the liquid visible on black and white film. And when Fred McMurray chastises him for creating a problem around the use of the apartment, Levin gave the container a squeeze. The milk shot out and sailed right past McMurray's nose. Bill Wilder left the take in the film. We've got this stuff. This is what stood out to me. After getting the Rickshaw Boy album, Sheldrake gives Fran $100 cash and tells her to get herself something pretty. The $100 cash.
They sell nice things down at this store. Go to that store.
Yeah, the $100 cash Christmas gift is equivalent to $950 today. In 1959, it was stated early in the movie that C.C. Baxter gets paid $94.70 a
a
week
week.
and pays $85 a month for his one bedroom apartment. That equivalent is
How about that
$94
inflation? What?
is $970 a week, and his
Gotta
rent
love
is
that
now
runaway inflation.
$870 a month. Which, shit you not, his rent should be $870 a month, but New York, for an apartment like that, it's probably closer to $3,000 a month, if not more.
Oh,
So
he has a huge apartment for New York. Like that apartment would have already been redone into 6 apartments in New York.
yes, exactly. Oh my god. Fun fact about his apartment: C.C. Baxter is just a poor accountant, but inside of his apartment are 2 authentic Tiffany lamps, which range from the price of $30,000 to $40,000 each. Yeah,
This
$30,000
place
to
is
$40,000
huge.
each
It's freaking
today.
huge.
Um,
Wow. Look at that
yeah,
closet. He has a 3-door closet.
3-door closet, kitchen space, a full bedroom. There's probably a full bathroom through the bedroom. So there's a bedroom in the bathroom. He's a
Oh, we
large
see his
living.
bathroom, don't we? I think he's in there at one point. Yeah, she's Fran's in there. That's where
Yeah,
she finds the sleeping pills.
yeah. He starts freaking out and he hides the razor and his stuff from her because he thinks she's gonna fucking just go nuts. Yeah, those Tiffany lamps in the corner there.
Oh yeah, it
30.
certainly is. I've seen one of those recently.
What I said, Miss Kubelik?
Oh yeah, those lamps can run anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 today.
You know what? You can also find them at Value Village. So you just got to be there on the right day.
True. According to Fred McMurray, after the film's released, he was accosted by women in the street who bothered him for making a dirty, filthy movie, and one of them hit him with her purse because she brought her 6-year-old son to thinking it was a Disney
that's a
film.
mistake. That's just a mistake. Well, look, I got no excuses for that. It's clearly not a Disney film. It doesn't say Disney anywhere. It's called The Apartment. What does that have to do with Disney? That's not a smart parent.
Well, apparently Fred McMurray was synonymous with Disney films and stuff back in the day.
Oh yeah. I'll have to look up what he's done too, because he did look familiar. I know I've seen him before.
Miss Dreyfus, the neighbor of C.C. Baxter and the wife of the doctor, is describing the playboy lifestyle that she thinks Baxter lives to Fran Kubelik. Miss Dreyfus refers to him as a regular King Farouk. King Farouk, living from 1920 to 1965, was one of the last kings of Egypt. He was renowned for his extravagant lifestyle and an international playboy with many marriages and mistresses.
I like that. See, that's a historical morsel. I like those ones, Murphy.
You like those ones? I'll try and find more of those ones for you.
Is that it? Is that the morsels?
We got the final 3 morsels here, and then I've decided to add a few more things to the morsels. Just things that I
oh my god, we're already in an hour on this goddamn horrible movie.
I know. Trust me, the stuff I tried finding and it's ridiculous. Billy Wilder and I.A. Diamond based the film partially on a Hollywood scandal in which high-powered agent Jennings Lang was shot by producer Walter Wagner for having an affair with Wagner's wife, actress Joan Bennett. During the affair, Lang used a low-level employee's apartment. Another element of the plot was based on the experience of one of Diamond's friends who returned home after breaking up with his girlfriend to find that she had committed suicide in his bed. Just wow, okay, wow, they're really writing what they know in this film, which just makes it even worse.
They know misogyny.
The
shitty doctors.
And from the cover of our episode, the inebriated Santa from the bar scene is the same actor Hal Smith who played the inebriated Otis Campbell on the Andy Griffith Show in the 1960s.
It's a deep cut that no one will understand who's listening to this podcast. Thanks for that.
I talked about the doctors on set earlier, so we can skip that one. So this leads us to the final one. Although the film continues to find new generations of viewers who love it, many of the objects seen are nearly obsolete in 2022. These include adding machines, typewriters and their dust covers, special paper, carbons and erasers, LP records and players, though vinyl is making a comeback, rotary dial telephones, desk pen
Nothing wrong with
sets,
vinyl.
small screen analog televisions, fur stoles, Hamburg hats for men as everyday wear, switchboard and elevator operators, typing pools, milk delivery, mercury thermometers, and a multitude of others. On the other hand, club sandwiches, cocktails, dive bars, frozen microwavable meals, insurance, infidelity, cheese crackers, TV remotes, and the love of classic movies continue to be staples of everyday life. And New York City will always be New York City.
And people would still like that Tiffany lamp and possibly that year of champagne. But other than that, there's nothing here. All right, Murphy. Rewatchability. Would you ever watch this movie again?
I would never watch this movie that at the time
Me neither.
Was a budget of $3 million, which today is worth $30 million.
It's like $100 like
$3 million to make this movie, and they grossed $24,600,000 worldwide in 1959.
Shirley MacLaine probably got paid $50 for this.
Probably. The film was cinematographer was Joseph Lashiel and edited by Daniel Mandel. Those are my movie more.
Murphy, does this movie hold up?
Good God, no! It does not.
Good God, no!
Good God, no! It is. If you want a lesson on misogyny,
holding up in the history of this show. And you know what? I freaking hated Southland Tales and I Heart Huckabees, but this movie. You know what? This movie might be better than those two movies, but it holds up just because it's so. No, it's honestly there's like at least a good direction and a good performance from Jack Lemmon, and those two movies didn't have either of those things. They were both badly directed and had no redeemable performances. But this holds up worse because it's just so misogynistic. And
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You're not wrong. It's like there's no way you could show this to like a group of like 18-year-olds and have it not blow their minds on how the world used to be. like wow. Yeah, let's move on from this movie.
Some may even pine for it. Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, so two no's from us. All right, fire us up a trailer for an actual good movie. Theater 2. One of look, I'll spoil my thing. One of the great movies of all time. Get that friggin' image of yeah, there we go. Theater 2, Gremlins, 1984, the year I was born. Man, there was a lot of good movies in 1984. I'll tell you right. I was born on a good year. Starring Zach Galligan, a young Corey Feldman, and Phoebe Cates, who I gotta say I had a mad crush on when I was a kid. If you're somewhere around my age and you didn't have a crush on Phoebe Cates, I don't know what to tell you.
I mean,
and directed by everybody did. I swear, everybody did. And directed by Joe Dante, who is like nothing but hits, man. Joe Dante, we had him earlier on this podcast because he directed Matinee, which we loved.
We did love Matinee.
We sure did.
I gotta say, Gremlins kind of felt lacking.
Don't do it.
To me.
Don't do it.
Let's watch this trailer and get into it.
Oh, we're getting into it.
Steven Spielberg presents Gremlins. Billy Pelser has a nice home.
Billy, is that you?
Yeah, Mom, it's me.
A nice job. A nice girl.
If you're not doing anything this Thursday night, maybe you'd like to go out on a date with me?
I'd love to.
And loving parents who are about to give him...
You're gonna like this. No, don't shake it.
Murphy, every scene in this movie is awesome. I don't know how you're gonna fight me on this.
He ever got.
What is wrong with you?
It's your new pet.
Every scene is memorable. It's all so good.
But there are a few things to keep in mind. If you expose it to the light, you may hurt it. If you get it wet, it will multiply.
All that from water? They got wet?
Yeah, plain water.
And most important, no matter how much they beg, never let them eat. after midnight, because when they do, they change. They become clever.
Billy's a sociopath.
This stuff is timeless, man. Like, this stuff is never faded from people's memory.
And dangerous.
Gremlins, huh?
You could ask anyone to this day what happens to a gremlin if you get it wet or a mogwai. Everyone will know.
Well, I don't know, maybe
It's
thousands.
unforgettable.
They've been here too. Billy, what are these things? Where do they come from?
Look, I know it sounds crazy, I know. But in a few hours, you're gonna have a major disaster on your hands.
That movie's great too. Oh, this movie's awesome.
Gremlins, directed by Joe Dante. They'll be expecting you.
Music by Jerry Goldsmith. This is great stuff, Murphy. I can't believe you're gonna. We're gonna have a fight. I know it. All right, that's why people tune into this podcast to hear us fight, I guess. Murphy, you're muted, by the way.
Sorry. It's becoming the cream of the crop of our entertainment. I didn't realize it was muted. Sorry. Yeah, I think
Do it.
I think what it is.
Hold everything you're about to say and think about it first. Think if that's really what you want to say. Okay.
Okay, here's the thing. I think Gremlins 2 is better.
What? What did you just say, Murphy? Do you even understand why Joe Dante made Gremlins 2? Gremlins 2 is a parody of Gremlins 1. He parodied his own movie because he didn't want to make a sequel. He knew he made a perfect movie, and there was like, make a sequel. He's like, all right, well, I'm not going to give a shit, and I'm just going to make it insane. Look, I love Gremlins 2 as well. Okay, this is my childhood. These movies, anything that came out in the 80s to late 80s, that's the stuff that was my bread and butter, man. So I love Gremlins 2, but it's not a good movie. It's just a bunch of hilarious scenes. This movie is a perfect movie. Every scene is memorable to this day.
It's a bunch of like
the characters are great. Great
flappy
character actors like
scenes.
Dick Miller. No, man, like for a movie
And there's
like
one
the
just
80s
like out of
was
the
very,
nowhere dark as hell scene, which is just like, okay, that was.
that's what this movie is though. Like it's funny, but it's kind of equally dark at the same time. There's like a lot of good movies are like that. Like another
Well,
movie I'm going to bring into
a
this
dark
podcast at
comedy,
some point,
right?
like Arachnophobia. There's another one like that.
Oh
where it's
God, you're
funny.
gonna make me watch Arachnophobia.
You don't like Arachnophobia?
Are we talking the like
John Goodman?
I was thinking, what's his name? Buddy from Ready to Rumble.
Why does everything come back to Ready to Rumble with you, Murphy?
Who's the lead actor in Ready to Rumble? He's like the
No, it's
brother
Ready
of
to
that
Rumble. I don't
actor from
care.
Friends. Oh, what's his name?
The actor from Friends?
No,
David Schwimmer?
Yeah, like not David Schwimmer. Damn, now I gotta like look this up.
You mean Arquette?
Yes, David Arquette. Yes. Are you talking about
David
Arachnophobia
Arquette?
with David Arquette?
No, he's not in that, is he? He's not the main guy in it if he is in it. The main person in it is like, I'm pretty sure Bill Pullman and John Goodman. Good actors, not David Arquette.
I don't know. I remember David Arquette being in some terrible, cheesy spider horror movie, and I was like, "This is terrible." I mean,
Oh, I think he's in that one. Like, no, I think that's some stupid movie later. It's like 8 Crazy Legs or something like that. It's called or some shit.
Yeah,
so
that's
Arachnophobia.
what it
I don't
is.
think you've seen Arachnophobia, and that's a friggin' good movie. But I don't know why we're talking about that. We're talking about Gremlins. Gremlins is a perfect movie, Murphy.
It's
It's
not
one
a
of the
perfect
best
movie,
movies.
my friend.
It's pretty much a perfect movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It still like it doesn't. Oh well, spoil it. Does it hold up? Look, I could watch this movie 1,000 more times, and I probably will. Like, it's so good, man. Like, it starts. Look, let's get into the synopsis, and I'll explain while I'm going because the synopsis is super long. Why all these scenes are amazing. So we're in Kingston Falls, a small town in the northeast of the USA. And it's been hit hard by job losses and stuff. So Rand Peltzer, the father of Billy, he's a great character. He's one of these guys who like just invents random bullshit that no one could ever want, but then he's also trying to sell it. He's the salesman as well. He's funny, man. He walks into that like the old antique store, and he's just like
I
showing
think
Buddy the thing. And he's just like, "Look, you want some of these? I can get you 30 of these. You want 100 of these? I can get you 100 of these." And he's just like, "Look, I can have this stuff here to you by Tuesday." And he just never stops talking. He's just like the like
he should have been a radio commercial
epitome of a
salesman,
salesman.
is what he should have been.
He should have been. So he's a cool character, and when you go back to their house, like this is a very 80s movie. Let me talk about this for a second. 80s movies were obsessed with puppets. Okay. And of all the puppet and especially cutie things, okay, like Gizmo. Okay. And of all those movies and they're even coming out since then, like Baby Yoda is just a shit Gizmo. If there was no Gizmo, there would be no that abomination piece of shit.
No Grogu.
So Gizmo was like the most likable and relatable of all these puppets, these cutie puppets that there's ever been. He is the best one. And as far as like the Gremlins go, it's the same thing. Like there were a lot of movies like Ghoulies and Critters, and they were these movies with like little demon puppets things. And again, the Gremlins are the best version of that. So when you put this movie in its time and all the things it's surrounded by, oh look at that cute little. I love Gizmo, man. I had a stuffed Gizmo as a kid, and I loved it. And I had like the little rubber action figure Gremlins too, Stripe and all, and like those guys. So I loved the Gremlins, and like everything's memorable. Like everyone who's seen this movie can even whistle or hum the Mogwai tune. Do
Ba, 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 ba.
do 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 do. Like everything about this movie is so well done, it's unforgettable. You can't forget any of it.
I mean,
like it's so that's what a good movie is. It's super enjoyable while you're watching it, and like each scene stands out on its own, even though it's this cohesive whole. Like in that scene too, like Dick Miller is amazing in everything, but his wife, and she's like such a space cadet. She's unforgettable too. She weirded me out when I was a kid because she's just always staring. I don't think she blinks in this whole movie. Like she's just this like strange, like kind of space cadet. Like man, all right, synopsis. So he walks into Mr. Wing's shop in Chinatown. And he tries to sell him all this stuff. And he's also looking for a present for his son, Billy, played by Zach Galligan. And he finds this creature in a box because it's like making sounds and whistling. And he's just like, "What is this?" And he's just like, "Not for sale," because he knows what happens to it. And like he knows like you can't give this friggin' mogwai to a white person and have them not feed it after midnight and get it wet. It's like you just say, "No, get out of my store." So, but again, like everyone in this town is having hard times. So the old man goes away, and his grandson says like, "Yeah, I'll sell you this because look, we do need the money. Like the store's probably gonna close otherwise." So he sells Gizmo to Rand, and then so he takes it home and he wraps it up in a box, of course. Yeah, and we meet Billy, his son, and Billy works at the bank. And there's a horrible woman. I have an image of her there who
Eagle.
comes into the bank. Oh my God, she's like the worst person ever. So she hates Billy's dog and she wants him put down for like knocking her snowman over.
Her ceramic snowman decoration.
Her ceramics.
It's an extreme.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of. Like it's ceramic in winter. It was gonna crack and break anyway. Like plastic existed back then.
All right. Here was the first issue of this movie that I had was this woman comes in and she's all like, "I want this dog put down," and I'm just like, "That's an extreme reaction, lady. I don't think you should need."
Yeah, but that's her.
Down, and then the dog fucking attacks and bites the
Sure
shit
does.
out of her.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, her claims of wanting the dog put down have become validated.
Mm-hmm. That's what makes a good movie, Murphy. So, like, you could just leave her as this. No, let me listen. You could just leave her as this cliche who's 100% wrong, but that's not interesting. Like, she could have come in there, mouthed off, and like walked out, and everyone in the audience would just be like, "Okay, she's horrible. That's the end of that." But instead, he, there is a legitimate claim there, like eventually. So that's like it adds like layers and depth to that character who could have just been an easy cliche. Like maybe that dog did get aggressive with her another time, because it hates her because she's horrible. The dog knows
Well, I
this.
mean, I would have to
So
believe her if she said it did because, like, clearly,
yeah, you would.
like, the dog is not well
And like
trained.
clearly,
Okay,
and Billy's a bit of a fuck up. Like he didn't train his
he's a
dog.
big fuck up. He's also a
Yeah.
sociopath. He's an absolute
Why is Billy
maniac.
a sociopath?
Yes, he's a sociopath. You don't
Why
believe
is
me?
Billy a
Look at the scenes of it.
sociopath?
Watch the scenes of him. Okay, you want to see? All right, Billy gets Gizmo. We're gonna try and speed through this plot synopsis a little bit.
Everyone's seen
Billy,
Gremlins.
yeah,
We don't need to
anyone who's
belabor
seen
the
Gremlins.
synopsis. So eventually, yeah, he gets Gizmo wet and feeds him after midnight.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Well, no, Gizmo
to
feeds
that
himself.
degree.
Yeah.
No, not
Yeah,
exactly.
he leaves out the chicken, and then Gizmo eats the chicken. But he didn't mean
No,
to.
Gizmo doesn't eat the chicken because Gizmo's
Oh no,
Gizmo.
because Gizmo's smart, and he knows all these things will be bad. So he doesn't want to get wet, and he doesn't want to eat after midnight. Gizmo's actually a very cool character.
Yeah, well, see what happens in this scene when Gizmo gets wet is he's getting hyped up by this
Clark Gable movie, yeah.
Yeah, Clark Gable. Sorry, I want to say Clark Brace for some reason. Yeah, this Clark Gable movie, and it's like those puppet scenes. Like he's just seemed uglier than what I remember in 2, and it's
He
not
does.
as what I remember in 2.
Yeah,
Right?
Gizmo's like that, man. When he gets into it, he gets kind of like aggressive looking. Like, and that's the thing because the other Mogwais don't look as nice as him.
So Billy, being the dumbass that he is, decides to bring up Corey Feldman to his room and immediately takes his shirt off, which I'm sure Corey Feldman's been, familiarized with at that age.
Oh my god. He was changing his shirt. Zach Galligan seems like a fine man, a fine individual. He was not exploiting young Corey
Zach
Feldman.
Galligan's a fine man, and I'm just saying that the men that Corey Feldman were around at that time were not fine men.
Oh yeah,
use that poor kid.
Well, look, I'm not going to stick up for Hollywood as a whole. I'll tell you that much.
Like this movie, they discover a new creature, and they're all just kind of calm and cool with it, right? So in this scene, he proceeds to show off to Corey Feldman's character, and he's like, "Can I pet him?" And then Corey Feldman just elbows a cup of water all over him.
Oh yeah, that's how he got wet.
This cute creature becomes terribly tortured and horrified. Like it's the most gruesome scene. Like this is kind of horrific as hell.
Yeah, it is. This movie has everything.
Billy here just watches, like nothing's going on.
This is supposed to be a scary movie. Like it's
yeah, but
supposed
he's
to
not
be that.
terrified. He's looking on with like a sick joy, especially later on when he brings Gizmo to Dr. Hansen. I tried to get that scene cut to show it earlier, but it wasn't going on.
No, but this is fascinating stuff, man. You would be like captivated by what's happening here.
Yeah, but I mean, if you cared about the creature, you would also like, you know.
Yeah, you try to help Gizmo. I agree.
Yeah,
but I guess he's just, they're just kind of in shock. You'd also be scared to touch something that's shooting tiny versions of itself out of its back.
I mean, I
make it worse.
would be
You know what I
too.
mean? You
I
sort
would
of
be a
have to
lot
like
more
take
freaked out than they are,
a
honestly.
cautious approach here. Yeah, Mogwais. I think I had a Stripe Mogwai too. Stripe was cool. Legend.
Oh, yeah, until he became an evil villain.
He's cool. Legend then too. He just got silly in the second movie where there's just like all the Mogwais and Gremlins are kind of like stupid. Yeah, Stripe. Yeah, he'll bite you, man. Stripe don't give a shit. See, that's the thing. See, this is what's interesting about this movie. Why is, and it's the question you're left to wonder about, and which is what makes kind of Gizmo kind of a hero character, because most Mogwais are horrible. Even before they're Gremlins, Mogwais kind of suck, but Gizmo doesn't suck, and I think that is explained subtly in the movie by the fact that that's the reason why the old man was keeping Gizmo. because he's from a place where they know about Mogwais and there's Mogwais or whatever. But you know, the mystical Orient back in the day, but he found this Mogwai who's actually very cool, so he kept it. You know, but most of them are terrible.
Yeah, he tried to take
and that's
care
why
of it, and then, you know.
Yeah. Like keeping it in a very small box, you know, kind of sucks for him. Like Gizmo didn't have a good life. There's a reason he loves Billy.
Well, I
He
mean,
loves
I
the old
don't
man
know
too,
why.
actually. Like he loves the old man too. Gizmo's just full of love. He's a great guy.
I don't know. I just feel like everyone's a little too comfortable exploiting a new species because basically, when the dad finds out that you can
Oh well, the
multiply
dad's a
by
friggin'
spraying
a
water,
shyster man.
he gets into it.
He's a
You know?
businessman through and through. That old man would sell 50 gizmos if he could.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Billy's
He
old
thinks
man
it's
is a
the new hot toy of the year.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the Furbies. Yeah, without Gizmo, there'd be no Furbies. Like Gizmo, there's so many things based on Gizmo, and if you say Baby Yoda's not just Gizmo, you're lying to yourself. But that's when I stopped watching that Star Wars show. Like literally the minute they introduced Baby Gizmo, me and Tiffany stopped watching it. We're like, okay, that's the end of that show. But
The very last scene of the first season,
no,
or no, first episode.
introduced
Actually,
first episode. Yeah, we were done.
you stopped watching The Mandalorian after the first episode.
As soon as they introduced Baby Yoda, I knew the rest of the show would be shit.
They literally steal the wolf and cub. That's
Yeah,
all it
Lone
is.
Wolf and
Wolf
Cub.
and cub.
Yeah, it's Lone Wolf
Lone
and Cub. It's a story we've seen before, but without a stupid baby friggin' Gizmo, like a Baby Yoda.
So you make
You can come up with ideas, or you can make a Baby Yoda. Pick one, because that's not an idea. That's a cheap gimmick, and
that's a
there's been so
discussion
many of
for
those
another
since
podcast.
Gizmo. There's been so many of those since Gizmo because Gizmo was great. People are just like, well, it's been 10 years, maybe we can introduce a Gizmo. But no, you're not Gizmo. You're, look at this!
Gremlin.
Yeah, I got my Gremlins. I bought it for the baby. This is the baby's, but I'm borrowing it. And look, it's Stripe. There's a Stripe plushie. Baby loves it. So, yeah, let's yada yada through this plot, so we can just talk about Gremlins. So, lots of things happen. Eventually, the Mogwais, because the rest of the Mogwais are kind of malevolent, they want to eat after midnight to turn into Gremlins. So they do. They find the chicken, and they get. Oh, I think I brought up a image of that. They end up turning into these.
They don't so much find the chicken.
Yeah, they are.
So what happens here is they're all complaining they're hungry, and Billy checks his clock to make sure.
Oh, they mess with the clock. The
yeah, they cut the clock wire, so it's actually looked like it's before midnight, but they
Billy thinks he's feeding them at 10 or something like that.
Yeah. So he ends up feeding him, and that's when they become Invasion of the Body Snatcher like eggs, slime pods, if you will.
Look at Phoebe Cates. She's gorgeous, man. Everyone had a crush on her. I'm telling you.
Yeah, she's pretty cute.
She's so
those
cute.
eggs. Dr. Hansen was given a Mogwai of his own to test with.
He's a dick. He just pokes it with shit.
Yeah, he just jabs it with a needle and takes his blood out and stuff. But the Mogwai,
he had it coming.
His hands on it.
The Gremlins get him later, but he had it coming.
Yeah.
And so did the lady who wants to kill the dog. She gets it later from the Gremlins. She deserved it. And this lady kind of sucks. She gets it too.
This Deagle.
Now Dick Miller was cool, but they go after him. Oh yeah, the great practical effects.
The practical effects are hands down amazing. Without a doubt. It's a lot of slime.
And the music is amazing too. This is great. Look at Gizmo. He's so scared.
Yeah, because he knows the bad that's about to happen.
Oh yeah, he does. And I love that Gizmo never turns into a gremlin. If Gremlins was a 2000s franchise, of course he would be turned into a gremlin, because if it could happen, it has to happen in a modern movie, and that's why modern movies suck. You have to do the obvious thing all the time.
I've got some
You
movie
could have
morsels on
restraint
this
back in the
movie.
day.
The movie
Oh,
morsels
you
I have on
can't.
this movie are gonna blow your brains, I think.
They won't.
Because
They won't.
they were wowing me.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's wrap up this synopsis for this one, since everyone's seen this movie and it's amazing. So, there's a big action plot in the movie where like Billy's running around and Phoebe, no, not Phoebe in this one. That's not her name in this. Forget her name in the actual movie. They're running around trying to save people from like the Gremlins, basically. And so is Gizmo. Gizmo's a good Gremlin fighter, actually, which of course especially happens in the second movie, but then it just gets silly. My God, the synopsis is long. So Billy carries Gizmo around in his backpack, which is pretty cool. And they get rid of most of the Gremlins in this movie theater, which I think I have an image of as well, because like all the Gremlins show up at the same place to watch this movie, which is pretty funny. Oh wait, well let's show this image that you wanted to talk about, Murphy. You're muted, Murphy.
Sorry, sorry. I keep trying to clear my throat without being muted. So anyway, this was the one scene in this movie that was actually stop motion animation. Because
and you can tell it looks very
debating-
different than the rest of it.
Yeah, they were debating if they wanted to use stop motion animation for the entirety of the movie, but they ultimately went with puppets. The movie.
I'm glad they didn't, but you could never have 25 puppets and work them all.
Their original option, the original option, and we'll get to that. But anyway, this is one of my favorite shots in the film for sure. But this is when the Gremlins start breaking free and causing havoc in the streets. Go into the movie theater. They decide to start watching.
Yeah, there we are. Yep. Yeah, they're watching. Snow White, and they love it. They're eating up Snow White. See, this is great too, because these Gremlins are very much kind of the mythological gremlin. They're not just these, like, the way these other movies like Ghoulies and things did it, where they're just kind of like murderous little creatures. Gremlins just want to screw around. They're just like Lokis. They're little Lokis. They're little like tricksters, and they do that well. But like Loki, they'll still murder you, but that's not what their objective is. They just want to have a good time and screw around. Just don't get in their way.
They definitely do a whole lot of chaos in this film, and I was also among this chaos. Eventually, Billy goes to the police, which I believe is the scene. No, this isn't. Right, this is the end. No.
Yeah. So they get most of them there in the theater. They just set it on fire, don't they? Like, I don't know,
they end up setting it on fire and exploding it. But like prior to that, Billy ends up going to the cops. Where
the cops, and like in every movie, horror movie, the cops are useless. There's no sense in going to the cops.
I was surprised that one of the cops was the Jonathan Banks, man. Like that came out of nowhere for me.
Oh yeah, man, Jonathan Banks. There's a lot of good actors in this.
I didn't know he was in this film. Old Johnny B.
Yeah, man.
This scene was infuriating, honestly. This is one of the scenes that I'm like, this is dumb as hell.
This is cops in every horror movie, man. They won't help. It's not just this
He's
movie.
literally showing them evidence of a new species of aliens, and they're just enamored by it, but they don't believe him that there's gremlins. He's literally showing them proof, and they're like, nah.
You can't approach cops with something new in a movie. It just doesn't work out. That's a trope, and I agree that that's a bit of an overdone trope, but in 1984 it probably was. See, at least they're playing along. They're not the worst cops in a movie.
Be careful, Frank. You may tear your arm off. You want me to put the cuffs on him?
Billy, tell me something.
Look at that young Johnny B.
A little guy like this can turn into 1,000 ugly monsters, huh?
Well, you see, this is before it enters the pupal stage.
The pupil stage.
The pupil stage.
Plus it multiplies with water.
Oh, Christ.
There she goes.
The eagle out the window.
She had it coming.
My God, Frank. That was Mrs. Deagle.
That was Mrs. Deagle.
Jesus, Frank, that's Dave Myers. He does Santa every year. Frank, I really think we should go now.
It's such useless
Can I
stuff.
start the car? Because I'd really like to go back to the station now. Frank.
They're like the cops from Superbad, but like 25 years before Superbad.
Yeah, and 25 years older.
Yeah.
And we just
You
assume
can't have an
they're dead
80s
after
movie
that
without
because
a
we
car
never see them
flipping.
again. Yeah.
But yeah, so eventually they get all the Gremlins except for Stripe because he's the most clever and he's still out there. But eventually they get Stripe as well. And they microwave one. That's kind of gruesome.
Oh yeah, they basically they and they get to the end scene here.
Yeah, the toy store, like when they're in the department store, that's super cool. And Gizmo's riding around in his little car.
Stripe with the gun.
Billy. You see, that's super memorable too, the way Stripe says Billy. Man, this is such a good movie.
It's dated though.
There it goes, yay! Only because it's like 80s style with puppets. But like, you could take this plot now and make it all CGI and it would suck way worse because it's CGI. And CGI sucks compared to practical. So, like, you can't do a movie like this today because it would immediately be 10 times worse. And that's why this movie holds up and why it's timeless. Because it was made in an era where you could make a movie like this and have it not be complete shit. Gizmo would be CGI now and it would be just seem like a cartoon. You would never relate to Gizmo.
It is. I don't. You probably they've brought it like back as like a modern day cartoon and stuff today.
Yes, man. They hate Gizmo because they know he's the altruistic one. Gizmo can take a beating.
He gets the bright light and he melts Stripe.
They don't like bright lights.
It's so goopy.
Oh yeah, it's very goopy. Look at her. She's so cute.
Oh, Marshmallow.
Yeah, man. Legendary end scene. This is a great movie. I don't know what to talk about. But you can't make a movie like this today. This movie is as timeless as a movie can be because it was the perfect movie made in its day. And it can't be replicated. It couldn't have been done before this. It's just a perfect snapshot of 1984 filming.
I mean, it's Joe Dante classic filmmaking.
It's Joe Dante and Spielberg and Jerry Goldsmith on the music, man. Like, this is the A-list. This is the friggin' A-list, man. And whoever their puppeteers were and practical effects guys were, they were friggin' on it too.
I mean, it's an A-list, like, how can I put this? It's an A-list high school production of a horror film.
Oh my God, Murphy, your brain is broken. All right, we're gonna move on.
This is Joe Dante and Steven Spielberg.
We're moving on.
Testing stuff out.
No, cut the clip. We're getting into it. Look, I can't talk to you about this movie anymore. It's too frustrating. Let's just move on. The plot is amazing. The storytelling's amazing and unforgettable. You will never forget any scene in this movie.
The plot.
I couldn't tell you. It's only been like It's only been like a month, and I couldn't tell you a single scene in Southland Tales. And you said that's a good movie, and I couldn't tell you a single scene in that movie, even a month later. I couldn't tell you a single line from that movie. Nothing about that has any resonance or staying power. It was complete trash garbage, and you liked it.
I'm saying
this
Southland
movie
Tales is better
is
than
completely unforgettable.
This movie is
every scene is super memorable. There's no way you will forget any scene in this movie.
Oh no, I'm not saying there's not scenes that are entirely unforgettable. Like there are good scenes.
Fantastic movie. Hey Murphy, which scene would you hold up? There's so many good ones in this movie. I'm actually interested to see what your favorite is.
Honestly, the one scene that holds up for me the most is this scene here that I am. Do you hear what I hear?
When they start singing along with the shit.
The smartest scene in this movie. Okay, so the mom goes back to making cookies after she finds out there's alien eggs in her apartment or in her attic.
This is one of the more
smartest thing she does.
scenes.
Yeah, and this is the best scene in the film, I think. is when she
It's a good
grabs
one.
the knife, and then from there on, it's just like one sweet moment after another. That's just like tense as all hell, and it's a great.
Because there's a bunch of them, and they're all up in her kitchen and everything, and she does not know where they are. Like, the Gremlins are sort of actually a little bit scary, too. They're funny, but they're a little bit scary.
The thing about the Gremlins is
such a good movie.
All of their moving and all of their skittering and all that stuff, it's very off-screen. And the only times you'll see them on screen is when
they're puppets.
like wild hand puppets.
But that's a good thing. That's another thing that a modern movie would never do, because the modern movies don't understand subtlety.
That's not true. We use
It's
puppets.
100% true, and you know it.
No, that's not. You're so skewed.
It's 100% true.
No, you're absolutely.
No, it's 100% true. They would
No, it's not
CGI them all. You'd
100%
see them
true,
running
Dad.
around. You'd see them stabbing people. You'd see them do all this crazy shit because they're CGI and they can do that. Like, there's in modern movies, there's too much. We can do it, so let's do it. Not should we do it? Does it make the movie better? It's just like we can do it, so let's do it. That's every modern movie, and that's why they all suck.
And that's why you're skewed, because you look at them all as in that lens and in view.
Because they don't show me otherwise.
Did you see the new Dune movie? A lot of that was
Not yet.
practical effects. It's
I haven't
amazing.
seen that one. Well, I'll watch it. I've seen the other two Dunes, so I'm kind of done with that story, but I guess I can watch another one. All right, so that's the scene that holds up for you. That's a good pick. She's going to microwave the shit out of this guy. But she sprays him with the flea and tick spray first. That's probably DDT. That's really toxic shit. I probably would have killed it anyway. So that's a good scene. God, that is a good scene.
Yeah, that's
But
my
favorite scene. You know, the scene that I think about the most in this movie is actually like kind of the first one. It's Billy's father in that store. Like, I love that store. That store is such a crazy set. Like, that looks like a real store owned by like some kind of eccentric old guy. And yeah, I love that scene. And I love Dick Miller. Dick Miller, whenever he fights a gremlin. Dick Miller's great.
Yeah, Dick Miller's scenes are pretty good too.
Yeah. So those are probably my favorite. And when Spike goes after Gizmo, because Spike hates Gizmo, and he's just like taunting him. He's like, Gizmo. Like, he even knows his name. You know? Spike's a good villain. So those are the scenes I would hold up. You know, I love all of them, and they're all unforgettable. Which performance would you hold up, Murphy?
Oh God.
I know it's not going to be Zach Galligan.
No, it's probably
He's fine in this, but like, there's a reason he didn't get a ton of roles after this. He's not the strongest actor.
I mean, probably Phoebe Cates or the dad.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe Howie Mandel is Gizmo. You know, like
Howie Mandel is.
You know what?
Gizmo,
Actually,
so
no.
yeah.
I take that all that back. I take that all back. I'm
Is
gonna
it
go
her?
with Dick Miller. No,
Dick Miller's great, man.
Dick Miller. Yeah.
Those
Those are probably my two picks.
Yeah, I love Dick Miller, but I'm gonna go with the father. I really like him.
The snow
I'm gonna go
scene
with
is
Billy's
pretty
father. Yeah, that was a good scene. The setting aesthetic, amazing.
Dated.
No question. What is wrong with you?
It's dated.
What is
You
dated?
can tell it's
I
dated.
mean, because it
It's
took
just-
place. Because it took place in 1984, Murphy. Of course, it's
Yeah, I
dated.
know, and you can tell it's.
What does that even mean?
1984.
It's
It's
in
just, I don't know,
1984.
I
I was alive in
the setting in
1984,
the-
just barely.
the setting
Everything
in
was
the aesthetic
brown.
Is
Everything
very
was brown in
cartoonish
1984.
and very stereotypical and very just like fake feeling. Like none of the places.
No,
felt
man, it's
real,
all
and they weren't.
real
They were all
feeling.
on
That
studio
store
level.
feels real. Billy's house feels real. Everything feels like a lived-in world.
No, it doesn't.
Oh,
If you earlier you said Japan.
You actually liked
24,000 all of
Southland
40
Tales,
people.
Murphy. You have to
Yeah,
bounce this off the fact that you actually, when everything in that was so fake, it looked like a friggin' like high school student made it in 1998. No, it
That
wasn't the
was the
point.
point.
Every shitty director says that about their shitty movies. Oh, I meant it to be shitty. No, they didn't. They just friggin' flopped a movie and tried to make excuses. No excuses need to be made for Gremlins because it's beloved for being a perfect movie. All right, movie
Oh, you know
morsels,
what?
Murphy.
Actually, I've what one scene actually, one very important scene in this film. Before I get to the movie morsels, and this was probably the best scene in the film, aside from the kitchen scene. It was this scene where Kate talks about her last good
I have another
Christmas.
reason to hate Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Okay, what are you talking about?
This was
Like,
so
again, those
dark.
are real
Nothing has ever
people.
happened
They
to
feel
me
like real people.
on Christmas. Oh, God. It was so horrible. It was Christmas Eve.
This came out of
I was
nowhere.
9 years old.
Yeah.
Me and Mom were decorating the tree, waiting for Dad to come home from work. A couple hours went by. Dad wasn't home. Mom called the office. No answer. Christmas Day came and went, and still nothing.
She hates Christmas.
Police began a search.
Weeks.
Everything was falling apart.
Mm.
It was snowing outside. The house was freezing. So I went to try to light up the fire, and that's when I noticed the smell.
Yeah, he was dead there the
Firemen
whole
came,
time. Stuck in the
expecting them to
chimney.
pull out a dead cat or a bird, and instead
Nope.
they pulled out my father.
Santa came down the chimney.
Gizmo's fit.
He's like,
Dressed in
what?
Santa Claus.
Gizmo's hilarious.
He'd been climbing down the chimney on Christmas Eve, his arms loaded with presents. He was gonna
Why?
See, this is actually that's actually the worst part of this movie because why wouldn't he just scream and say, "Hey, I'm in the chimney"?
And that's how I found out.
Because he slipped and broke his neck or something.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
And that's how she found out
fair
there's no
enough.
Santa Claus. There's no Santa Claus, kids.
All right, morsels, Murphy. Break into them. Hopefully, there's not 50 of them like in the last movie because we're already at an hour 46.
Movie wars?
Yeah.
So with Gremlins, 1984, the film was released on the same day as Ghostbusters, 1984, and competed with Ghostbusters throughout the box office year. Same day.
That's crazy. Two basically perfect movies on one day.
And basically,
that's never happened again. I
held the
guarantee
lead.
you, there's never been two movies that good released on the same day since. It's impossible. There's no way it has happened.
This movie and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom from 1984 are credited with inspiring the MPAA to create the PG-13 rating. Many felt the movies were too violent for a PG rating, but not violent enough for an R.
I mean, ratings are stupid anyway, but yeah.
But
that's the thing about Gremlins. It's like that's why I loved it as a kid too. Like it just seems slightly kind of adult, you know, but you could still watch it as a kid. Not that anyone cared in the 80s. I could watch anything. No one cared. But
the front door of Mr. Wing's mysterious store has 4 Mandarin symbols engraved on it. Together, they translate into English as gods and monsters.
that's awesome.
Yeah. These movie morsels are really good. Like I didn't want to have a lot.
Deep movie. It's layered. It's Joe Dante.
I mean, I'm not gonna like the things that they did into this.
You say this movie doesn't hold up, or you won't watch it again. I'm gonna fight you, Murphy, because I'll call you a liar, and then I will fight you. So just continue. Continue with your morsels before the killing happens, or doesn't, and it shouldn't.
Originally, Stripe and Gizmo were the same character. This changed when a executive producer. Yeah,
so they were gonna turn Gizmo into a gremlin.
This changed when executive producer Steven Spielberg insisted one of the Gremlins be a good guy with whom the audience could identify. Director Joe Dante expressed that this decision was the reason why the film is so fondly remembered.
Yes. See, Spielberg is... Look, no one knows how to make a movie like Spielberg.
The idea of these creatures, this one I like. The idea for these creatures was born in a loft in Manhattan's Garment District that was home to New York's University Film School graduate screenwriter Chris Columbus. By day, it was pleasant enough, but at
he wrote
night,
this movie.
Yeah, by day it was pleasant enough, but at night, what sounded like a platoon of mice would come out, and hear them skittering around in the blackness.
Oh
Was
my
really
God.
creepy. Columbus
God, I'm
recalls.
glad I don't live in New York.
Uh,
Apparently, they've dealt with the rat problem somewhat, but who knows how true that is.
The Santa speech proved to be controversial, and studio executives insisted upon its removal because they felt it was too ambiguous as to whether it was
Hates?
supposed to be a funny or sad. Director Joe Dante, however,
It's supposed to be funny.
Joe Dante stubbornly refused to take the scene out, saying it represented this movie as a whole, which had a combination
It
of
does.
horrific and comedic elements. Executive producer
Yeah.
Steven Spielberg did not like the scene, but despite his creative control, he viewed this movie as Dante's project and allowed him to leave it in.
Dante was right. It does kind of encapsulate. I love scenes like that in a movie that are kind of a microcosm as a movie of the movie as a whole. Yeah. No, that was smart by
And
Dante.
an earlier attempt to have this is probably my favorite movie morsel for this film.
Okay.
An earlier attempt to have monkeys play the Gremlins was
Oh
abandoned
my God.
because the test monkey panicked when made to wear a gremlin head. Chris Wallace suggested they use puppets instead of the proposed stop-motion idea. As a compromise, the studio suggested a spider monkey in a suit, which was tested at director Joe Dante's office. The animal went crazy, tearing the office apart.
Of course it
and
did.
testing everywhere. Dante
You
screamed
can't
at the
hold that
training
against the
animal,
final product of the
and
movie,
then
Murphy.
and then asked
That was
Wallace,
cut.
"So puppets?" So they were the studio's like, okay, maybe not
People
stop
used to
motion.
try to use monkeys for
Let's go with
everything.
monkeys. Let's go with
People used to
monkeys.
try
This
to use
movie would have
monkeys
been
for everything.
so different.
Yes, I would have hated it if they had forced monkeys to do these things.
When the
And
movie
puppets
was
were cool,
made,
man. Practical effects were good.
there was no CGI, so all of the Gremlins were animatronics, each costing between $30,000 and $40,000, as much as a Tiffany lamp.
Oh.
When everyone left the lot for a day,
It's a
security would have
Tiffany
hated.
lamp. Good segue from the last movie.
Security would have everyone open the trunks of their cars to make sure they weren't stolen. This is a fun one. After watching Tim Burton's earlier short films, executive producer Steven Spielberg considered him to direct this movie. He decided against it, however, because at the time Burton had never directed a full-length feature movie. So Tim Burton could have directed this movie.
Okay, I have something to say about that. It wouldn't have been as good done by Burton. And look, Burton does one of the other movies I think is a perfect movie, which is Beetlejuice. And I actually like Beetlejuice better than this movie. But Tim Burton is not right for this movie. Tim Burton has done a lot of clunkers as well. Basically everything after Beetlejuice. Nightmare Before Christmas is okay, I guess. But like most Tim Burton movies aren't good, whereas most Joe Dante movies are, I would say. So I think that was the right call, though Beetlejuice may be the best movie ever. It'll never show up on this podcast probably because it's too good. Of course it holds up. It's Beetlejuice. The music, everything about it is beautiful. But
You're fantastic. Okay, so these are some very interesting ones. Chris Columbus's script went through a few drafts before a shooting script was finalized. His original version had the Gremlins killing the dog and cutting off the mom's head and tossing it down the stairs. These elements were never shot due to the fact
full horror.
Joe Dante and Warner Brothers wanted the movie to be more family-oriented. In the same vein, Mr. Hanson, the science teacher, played by Glenn Turman, originally died with dozens of hypodermic needles stuck in his face. However, by request from Steven Spielberg, the scene was reshot with just a single needle in the buttocks. And the Gremlin in the microwave that we saw from my scene earlier had to be reshot after the first Gremlin explosion was deemed too gory.
How could it be more gory than guts covering the entire thing? Like, what did they do?
That's what I'm saying. That scene's very gory. What was gory?
Oh, you know what? It was probably just redder, so it looked more like blood.
Probably, yeah.
Made it yellow goopy instead.
And green, yeah. The scene in the department store when Stripe attacks Billy with a chainsaw was not in the script. It was added by director
It's a
Joe
great
Dante
scene.
and Zach Galligan as homage to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre of 1974.
Yeah, very cool.
Dude,
Very cool.
the Gizmo puppets were particularly frustrating because when they were smaller, and thus broke down more. Consequently, to satisfy the crew, a scene was included in which the Gremlins hang Gizmo on a wall and throw darts at him. This was included on a list that the crew created known to them as the horrible things to do to Gizmo list.
Oh my god. Like they do, the Gremlins torture the shit out of Gizmo, and Gizmo's such a good guy and so cute. You feel bad for him, so bad for him the entire time, which is another very effective thing this movie does.
The theater that blows up with the Gremlins inside was subsequently involved in another accident when Marty McFly and Michael J. Fox in the Back to the Future 1985 smashes into the front entrance. The theater then burned down with the rest of the building in the fire that happened right after the filming of Back to the Future Part 2 in 1989. The new Mogwai, which popped out of Gizmo's body as small furry balls, which then started to grow, were balloons and was expanded with air. Yeah.
It makes sense. They look like that. Yeah.
One of the reasons for the no bright lights rule was that in 1984, director Joe Dante and Amblin could not completely navigate the perilous waters of special effects for the Gremlin puppets that well. By keeping them in the dark, this camouflaged this problem.
Yeah.
This is an old sci-fi trick.
That's why all fight scenes are in the dark.
With the tricky and lumpy practical effects for The Howling 3 years earlier, they kept the monsters in the dark to hide special effects problems.
That can be done well and it can be done badly. Hey, Murphy, here's a rewind for you. What was the theater called in the apartment?
The Majestic? Yeah. No.
Yes, it's the Majestic.
Was it the Majestic?
It was the Majestic.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just like subconscious.
Let's go to the show down at the Majestic. Yep.
We're gonna wrap these up. We're getting to the final ones. The fountain was filled with liquid nitrogen, and Stripe's grisly demise orchestrated by a puppeteer hidden inside, wearing special protective gear. So there's a guy inside.
Jump in no liquid nitrogen. That's insane.
Yeah. Homie's just inside.
This is the small homie.
This is the last movie to be shot on Eastman Color 125T film stock, which was discontinued shortly after this movie's finished shooting. Among others, like Howie Mandel, one of the voices of the Gremlins were done by Michael Winslow. From
that makes sense. He's one of the greats, man, from Police Academy fame.
Police Academy.
Yeah, man.
Mushroom the dog actor. Mushroom, the dog actor who played Billy's dog, Barney, also played Lance Henriksen's dog in the cult horror movie Pumpkinhead in 1988.
Pumpkinhead, yeah. Pumpkinhead's good too, man. That could show up on this podcast at some point.
That wouldn't be a bad one. The term gremlin is a neologism popularized by English-Norwegian author Roald Dahl, famous for his somewhat dark children's book, his story Gremlin Lore, about fictitious, mischievous elves that were said to cause unexplained damage on Royal Air Force planes, was commissioned by Walt Disney but was never made.
There's something on the way. Something. It's also Twilight Zone. Yeah.
I gotta polish up my Kirk for this Friday's radio read.
You do? Yeah, I gotta polish up my Cybok.
The Mogwai
will be a believer by the time I'm done, Murphy. Let me tell you, I will be so convincing as Cybok.
The Mogwai were molded and inspired from the Japanese chin dog breed. Gizmo was the inspiration for the Furby, a multi-million-selling mechanical stuffed animal.
Furby, Baby Yoda, and like 1,000 things since then. The Ghoulies, everything. Like. I could probably bring a list next episode of 100 things that were based off of Gizmo, and all of them were much shittier. Gizmo was the good one. Honestly, Baby Yoda's the worst thing ever. Like, anyway.
Filmmakers were pushing the envelope with technology for this film. It wasn't until director Joe Dante made Gremlins 2, The New Batch, in 1990 that it had advanced to the point where they could get Gizmo running and dancing. The sets were generally built up off the floor so the puppeteers could be underneath operating the monsters. They used marionettes in a couple of scenes, but they weren't especially convincing. Dante explained, good puppetry is an art. When it's done as well as it was in Gremlins, CGI technology can't do it any better. He's not
can't. It can only do it worse. I don't like CGI almost as a rule. It doesn't ever feel real, so it takes me out of the movie. The puppets obviously are real, so it doesn't take you out of the movie. They look like physical things. No, they look. There hasn't been good CGI since Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park. Pretty much all CGI since then
puppetry.
Fake like a
Puppetry
video.
always takes me out of a movie because even though it's real, it's still puppetry, and I can tell it's puppetry.
You can tell CGI is CGI.
One of the few
There's never been a movie since Jurassic Park
take me
that
out
you
of the
couldn't tell the
movie
CGI was CGI.
is that one with the man-eating plant. You know what I'm talking about? With Rick Moranis. That popular one where it's a giant man-eating plant that sings and stuff. You must remember this movie. I can't remember the name of it. Oh my god.
Not Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
No.
That's a great movie, by the way.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, that's one of the better acts of puppetry that doesn't take me out of a movie. You know, so like
you're such a young man, Murphy. Like how you cannot look at CGI and see it all as just a video game. I don't know how that. It just looks like a friggin' video game. Like it doesn't look like
good and bad CGI.
The CGI doesn't look like it can interact with the human characters in anything. CGI has only gotten worse.
All right, I'm going to wrap up my final movie morsels for Gremlins here.
We're already at 2 hours.
I know. I'm trying. Trust me, the film movie morsels for Tokyo Godfathers is like 4. So this is the bulk of the movie morsels for this episode. After the film's release, director Joe Dante stated, "I still have no idea why this picture was successful."
It's amazing, Joe Dante.
Director Joe Dante prefers
he knows why it was successful.
The New Batch to this movie. The director prefers Gremlins 2 over Gremlins.
No, he doesn't. He parodied his own movie.
It literally said director Joe Dante prefers Gremlins 2, The New Batch, to this movie.
No way.
Even though set during Christmas,
because he had more fun with it, but because he was just
course,
parodying his own shit. But that doesn't mean he thought it was a better movie.
Well, I mean, that's the question we need to ask Joe Dante.
Well, we'll get him
Even
on the
though
show.
set during Christmas, this movie was released on June 8th in Canada, Turkey, and the USA.
Well, that sucks.
Most of Europe and
They
much
should've
of
stayed with
America.
December.
The release was in December 1984 to coincide with Christmas. It was the fourth biggest grossing film of 1984. The film had a budget of $11 million, and the film ended up being a success at the box office, earning $212.9 million.
That has to be one of the most profitable movies ever. Like, never does an $11 million movie make $200 and some million.
I
and like
think
the toys and
better
everything that spun out from Gremlins made a ton of money too. I had all the toys, man. Everybody did.
Yeah, there's no talk of merchandise.
There's money.
Earnings,
Oh boy, there was.
The cinematography for this film was by John Hora, and the film was edited by Tina Hirsch. And those are my movie morsels for Gremlins of 1984.
Tread carefully, Murphy. Rewatchability. Tread carefully.
Yes, it does have rewatchability.
Yes, because it's so charming and enjoyable.
Charming, yes. Enjoyable, questionable. I found it to be.
You enjoyed this shit out of it.
I found it to be a problematic movie that seemed to just be a little too comfortable with animal exploitation to a degree that I didn't enjoy.
What is this animal exploitation you're talking about? You're talking about puppets? Are you talking about Mogwais? They aren't animals. They didn't end up using the monkeys, Murphy. That's what I said. If they had end up using the monkeys, I would hate this movie. But they use puppets, Murphy. Puppets. That's not what animal exploitation is.
in the realm of the
That's
film,
not what
the
animal
Mogwais are a real animal. They are
Oh
a new
my
species of
God, Murphy,
animal
that's the
that
biggest
is
stretch you
being
will ever come up
exploited
with.
by Bill's family and Bill himself, and they start to multiply these gremlins to a point where it gets out of control and damages their small little town. It's a problematic movie in that sense. And the
I
effects,
don't buy that at all. That's the craziest thing you've ever said, man. These puppets are causing animal exploitation.
No.
Like
The real monsters in this movie are the humans exploiting these animals. That's what I'm trying to point out. Bill's a sociopath. Dr. Hanson's like, I've got myself a new Nobel Prize.
Billy
Bill's
loves
father's
Gizmo.
thinking he's
He
got
just
Toy of
wants
the
what's best
Year.
for Gizmo. Oh,
Does
Billy's
he?
father, I'm
Does
not
he?
going to stick up for. He's a bit of a shit. He doesn't. He's a sociopath potentially.
I think Bill's got
But
too much in his head worrying about the lead in the female lead. I forget her name at the moment. Anyway, listen.
Phoebe Cates.
The movie has rewatchability in the sense that it is a bona fide classic, and there's no other film like it other than the multiple sequels that follow it, and it should
and
be
you couldn't
watched.
make it again. You couldn't make it. You can't remake this movie. They will, and it will suck because everything will be CGI and look stupid. But
unless they use puppets,
I hope they don't.
entirely
I
to
hope
stay
they
true
don't.
to the classic.
If they did that, well, there's no need to remake it, which I don't think they do. There are
Thing in
some
the
movies like
Wednesday film is all
you should never remake Beetlejuice. There's certain movies you should never remake because they're perfect, and this is one of them.
Well, Thing in the new Wednesday show is all practical, and it's done really well.
I'm never gonna watch that show. I don't need sexy Wednesday. Wednesday's supposed to be a disturbed child, not this like super pretty goth chick. Like that's so modern too. It's just like we can't actually have a show with just
Christina
a
Ricci
weird,
was like
awkward
my
little
first
girl.
crush here. Christina Ricci was my first crush. She's always been
That's odd.
like
not as
I was
Wednesday.
the same age as her.
Oh well, fair. But like she wasn't like super pretty. She was just a disturbed girl who never blinked. Instead, they just made like let's hire this super hot girl to play Wednesday because it's a modern movie and you can't actually write something good. You have to bring people in with pretty people. That's like, man, everything's so shallow now. It's upsetting. Rewatchability, yes, of course. I've watched it so many times. Like I said last podcast that I've probably seen Medicine Man more than any other movie. I think I have to take that back. I've seen Medicine Man more than any other movie as an adult, or at least a teenager. But if I count movies I watched as a kid, I've probably seen Gremlins more. And same with Beetlejuice. I've seen those movies like countless times. Does it hold up?
No.
What?
No, it doesn't hold up. Gremlins 2 is a better film.
Yeah, this podcast is over. This is the last episode of Hold Up. Sorry, everybody. Murphy's biased. He's just saying this to get under my skin. He doesn't mean it.
It's
that's
not
what
true.
this podcast is about. That's not what this podcast is about.
No, it is about what this podcast is about, sir. I don't think
No,
this film holds up
Murphy.
to the same degree that you think it does.
It's not about to the degree that I think it does. But you
Well, I don't
said you
know
would
what
rewatch this movie. Clearly, it holds up.
I could rewatch this movie in the sense that I would like to rewatch this movie and maybe study some scenes and effects or see how they did some things. But that doesn't entirely mean the movie holds up as a whole.
No,
In this
the
entirety,
movie holds up because it's
pretty
still
hollow.
enjoyable to this day. And you can't remake it. You can't remake this movie. You can't make this movie better. It's perfect the way it is. You could never make this movie better. And that's the definition of holding up. Like we could do The Apartment and make that movie better. We could take the plot of Apartment and make it better because it doesn't hold up. Gremlins you can't make better.
But they did. It's called Gremlins 2, the new batch.
Murphy, let's go back and watch Gremlins 2. It's not a better movie. It's just silly bullshit. Like
I remember more scenes from Gremlins 2 than I ever did.
No, you don't.
Watching
Name 5 scenes from Gremlins 2.
The dancing gizmo scene, the scene with the female gremlin, the brain gremlin, the cafeteria wrecking scene, the scene where the entire building gets locked down,
Okay, fine. Look, Gremlins 2 is okay too, but it's not as good as this one. But because those are just silly scenes, they aren't as like impactful. Like, yeah, there's like the news anchor Gremlin. Like, it's just all it's a parody. Parodies are inherently.
I can only be impressed so far when with a man's hand shoved up the ass of a puppet and they're hanging off a wall going, you know, I can only be that impressed. They can only shake a puppet around so much for me to be like, oh, this is great. I'm a kid again.
If this movie doesn't end up an A movie on our list, Murphy, we have a problem. We have a problem.
I'm not changing it. I'm sorry, but this movie doesn't hold up. Gremlins 2 is the better film. If you want to watch a better Gremlins film, watch Gremlins 2.
No one in the world
That's
is
my
going to
thought.
agree with that opinion. You are on an island, my friend.
Well, I mean, our
In
adoring
an island, not just an
comments
island,
let
an
us know.
island that's a parody of a real island. Like a fake ass, like goofy island.
Well, we need to get off this island of Gremlins and move on to another island in
I am
Japan called Tokyo
I am so upset right
Godfathers.
now. Sound off in the comments, people, on how much you hate Murphy right now. All right. Go ahead.
We're moving
Murphy.
over to Theater 3. We're taking it over.
I'm gonna take a walk. Launch a
Tokyo
trailer.
Godfathers.
I gotta go walk that off. How much
So we've got Tokyo Godfathers. Does he have a banner set up for Tokyo Godfathers? Did he do that at all? I don't here, hold up banners. Hang on. There it is. Okay, cool. Sorry. He walked away. I'm figuring this out. Tokyo Godfathers 2003 starring Toru Imori, Aya Omakamata, and Yoshiaki Umekagaki, directed by Satoshi Kon, a film about three homeless individuals who come across a baby on Christmas, and they seek out to bring this child to its loving parents. So let us watch the trailer for Tokyo Godfather. This is the English dub trailer for anybody listening, so you'll understand what's going on. When we did watch this movie, though, we watched it with subs because, you know, subs over dubs. You know what I'm saying? Subs over dubs. So here's the trailer for Tokyo Godfathers.
This bundle of joy is a Christmas present sent from God. She's our baby now.
You know what sounds a lot weirder? The fact we have a crying baby in here.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but what can we do about it?
Find her parents.
You want to find her parents? You're trying to play house when we're three good-for-nothing bums who can't even look after ourselves. We did everything we could do. We're bums, not action movie stars.
All right, let's ring in the new year by taking out the trash.
I don't think I'm gonna fit.
Yeah, it's a Christmas miracle.
All right, look, I got some things to say. This movie had it's a lot of up and downs for me. I was out, then I was in, then I was out, then I was in. Some things are hard to watch as a young parent or as a parent of a young baby. Like, I don't.
I kind of felt like this was going to hit a deep home for you.
It does, but in not a good way too. Like, I've never seen a baby used as a plot device. It's strictly a plot device as much in a movie or anything since like Roger Rabbit with that baby that just crawls around and constantly gets into trouble but never dies. Like
yeah. Roger.
Like there's at least 10 things that happen to this baby in this movie that a baby could not survive. And in general, that's why I don't like anime. So, opening statements, I don't dislike this movie. It has some heart and it has some things that are very enjoyable, and some things I'll get into later. But the things that I don't like about anime are true about this. Everything's so overstated. Everybody yells everything inexplicably. Like in animes, people scream lines of dialogue that have no need to be screamed, and I don't like yelling and screaming. It's like just something I don't
It's
enjoy.
the
I don't enjoy
culture.
it in real life. I don't. Yes, I don't. Yeah, fine, but I'm not part of that culture, so I don't enjoy it. And it's like to me, it's the inmates controlling the asylum. It's why comics went to shit in the '90s because they put all the creative control onto the artists instead of the writers, so all the stories fell to shit. And that's what happens here. So they have people yell dialogue just so you can have a close up on the face of the person with bug eyes and sweat flying off their face. Like everything about anime is about the animation, probably why it's called anime. But that screws the story. It screws the relatability of the characters, and that's why I generally don't enjoy animes. The only animes I generally like are the American ones, which is probably sacrilege. I love the Boondocks and I love Avatar: The Last Airbender, but most Japanese animes don't translate well for me. I just find them so over the top in all aspects that it takes me out of it. And like in this movie, along with a lot of other animes, they try to do this gritty realism, which would kind of ground it and make it more relatable. But they squander that, I find, with everything being so turned up to 11. Like everything is Spinal Tap on an anime. Everything's turned up to 11. The emotion, the facial expressions, even the plots. Like everything could just become so unbelievable. It takes you out of it. At least me. But this
Okay.
movie, again, I was in and then I was out, and then I was in and then I was out, because this movie is actually quite good. So there are things that pull you back in, despite these things I don't like about anime. But those things I don't like about anime are still ever present. So I was never
Well, let's pull
100% in.
ourselves let's pull
All right.
ourselves back into the plot of Tokyo Godfathers, which is a 2003 anime film that follows the story of three.
Starring Toro Emori, Akamoto, and Yoshiaki Umegaki, directed by Satoshi Kon.
Satoshi Kon, yes. I did this while he stepped away, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, man.
Did I just
I had to go
yeah,
for a walk. I was quite upset.
I could tell. So yeah, Tokyo Godfathers is a 2003 anime film that follows the story of three homeless people living in the streets of Tokyo. A young girl named a young girl named Mayuki, a trans woman named Hana,
She's the
and
most
middle-aged
relatable.
a
But again,
middle-aged
her
man
story
named Jin.
makes no sense. Like her
One
story is the
Christmas
most
Eve,
grounded and still makes no sense. But anyway, continue.
One Christmas Eve, the three of them discover a newborn baby in a dumpster. While they are scavenging for food and supplies, they decide to take the baby and try to find its parents.
That was hard to watch. Someone abandoning a baby like stabs me in the friggin' heart, man. And I was just like, oh god, is this movie gonna be about like miserable babies? And it basically was. The baby cries the whole time, and no one really cares because they're busy with their own bullshit. And I'm just like, man, I just want to slap everyone in this movie and take the baby away from them.
Slap him as hard as Hana slaps that like crazy mom at the bridge. That was a good slap.
That was a good slap.
Yeah.
That was actually funny. Hana's quite funny, actually. But
so yeah, they discover a baby while scavenging for food and supplies in a dumpster. They decide to take the baby and try and find its parents, embarking on a journey that takes them through the various neighborhoods and subcultures of Tokyo. Along the way, they confront their own personal demons and past traumas and ultimately come to understand the true meaning of family acceptance and overall miracles, which this film tends to have a series of.
Okay.
So shortly after Miyuki,
I
Han,
gotta
and
say
Jin find the baby. Okay.
Here's another problem I have with this movie, and again, it's a product of the fact that everything in anime has to be turned up to 11. You know what? That's not even fair. Everything in anime is turned up to 20. So most Christmas movies, which this definitely is. Honestly, this is the most religious movie that has been made probably since the Ten Commandments. This is like a pure religiosity. It's all about the power of God. You know, everything about this movie. So most Christmas movies are about that. They have that religious aspect. So they usually have a Christmas miracle. But in this movie, a Christmas miracle happens every like 15 minutes or so. So in this movie, there's like 10 Christmas miracles. So to the point where you just become numb to it and it becomes stupid. Like I said to
I
Murphy,
don't fucking
after I
no,
watched
I
this
don't.
movie, I'm like, clearly in this giant metropolis Japanese city, 40 people live because every friggin' building or every place they go, they meet exactly who they need to meet. And it's not like it's Scrooge and he's being taken to these places on purpose by a ghost of Christmas past. It's just wherever they go, conveniently, everybody they need to meet is there. Like you can walk into a
Okay,
hospital and, oh look, it's
I
your
need to
long lost
stop you.
daughter. Oh, and your long
I need
lost
to stop
daughter's.
you there. I need
No,
you. Whoa.
it's
Whoa.
ridiculous, man.
Whoa. Okay, first of all,
It keeps
are you
happening. Like
telling
I was
me that
by
your
the third
biggest
Christmas
gripe?
miracle, I was done.
Hang on. Will you let me get my price out? Okay.
Yes, of course.
Are you trying to tell me that your biggest gripe with the movie was the disbelief of a series of miracles or events that could only happen without, let me check my notes, a movie?
Yes, movies still have to feel like unless it's just like again, this is anime. I understand as an anime fan this doesn't seem strange to you, but as someone who just watches movies and not a lot of anime,
It has nothing to do with
it,
anime.
yes, it does. Because in anime, I feel like people forgive things in anime that they wouldn't in a movie. If you watched a live action movie and there were like and everything was so just like there's never been as much just cuz in a movie than in this movie. Everything
There's
happens
a lot
just
of
because.
serendipitous,
It needed
miraculous
to.
moments. It's meant to
Yes,
highlight
and
that.
if
The
that
movies have been
happened in a
meant
live action movie, if that happened in Gremlins, you would have been bashing Gremlins so hard. You'd be like,
No,
"Oh, that's
if
convenient.
Gremlins
Oh, well,
had the
that's convenient.
ability,
Oh,
no, no,
well,
no, no,
that's
no. If
convenient." Yes,
Gremlins
you would,
had the
Murphy.
ingenious ability to tie these scenes together like they
Ingenious.
did in Godfather, I would have been
Nothing
all
was
in
tied
on
together. It
Gremlins.
was all just 'cause. You can tie a
Are
movie
you
together
kidding
easily if
me?
everything is just conveniently there. The way I explained this to
I
Murphy
can't
was
believe
like it
this is
felt
how
like an
the
elementary
takeaways you
school
had
wrote the
with this
initial
movie.
initial plot. No, look, I like this movie, but it has huge problems, which I think is just a product of anime, potentially. But like
I don't. Your problems are seem so forced and
that in
superficial for this movie because like this movie
action
is
movie.
literally a holiday miracle movie where they miraculously find a baby in the dumpster. If they did not find that baby,
And
it
then
would
they
have
miraculously
and
what?
then
And
they
then they
and
miraculously what? And
they
then they
take the
miraculously what? And
what
then what miraculously happens? It's just
they take the
miracle
baby.
after miracle. This guy lives in this city, has never seen his daughter before, but of course he's going to run into her on this day because everybody runs into everybody they could possibly want to run into in this day. The Hana goes back to
What
the place she hasn't been
daughter?
back to because she thought she wasn't welcome. What
Wow, you're
what
so
daughter?
tiring.
The main character has a daughter that he hasn't seen. And then she's a nurse at the hospital and he runs into
Yeah,
her there because of course she does because everybody runs into it's like
it's not that he hasn't
a
seen. He just
Christmas
hasn't
story
kept in touch with
times
her. He's
20.
estranged. Yeah, that's and it's a Christmas movie. It's meant
No,
to
but
be
it's
about
like again,
Christmas.
one
It's like,
Christmas
oh,
miracle or even two Christmas miracles are forgivable in a Christmas movie. 20 Christmas miracles just get stupid. Like
but it's like
now
20
like it's
Christmas miracle.
let's
But
fall off a
it's like
building and this like
but
little flag
it
will
happens.
float us
It
down
happened.
beautifully because it's a
Dude, that
Christmas
shit was a
this
gorgeous scene.
anime Christmas.
That
No, it wasn't.
climax
That
scene
scene
was
was stupid.
amazing and brought tears to my eyes. All right, that was a
That scene
beautiful
was
scene.
stupid.
I was
That
on
was
the
not
edge
one
of
of the
my
good
seat.
scenes.
Oh my
On
god,
the
I can't
rooftop,
believe you
that was
think the
okay.
climax. You are a
On
fool,
the
sir.
rooftop
How do
was
you not?
okay when it was just what is it,
It was tense. Okay, we're
Miyaki?
jumping ahead a bit. We're
All right.
jumping ahead. All right, listen.
Go ahead if you can.
I
Yeah.
I
I
wanna
don't
break down
dislike
some
this
of these.
movie, but man, does it have problems.
All right, here's the thing. All right, one of the scenes in this film that I was hooked in was the wedding. After they coincidentally saved a Yakuza boss from being crushed by his own car, they get brought to his wedding like it's the Godfather. And I was like, okay, where's this movie going? Okay? And I had like, oh, I guess they're gonna help them like find people sooner, you know, they're gonna lead them to the people they're looking for. And he sees this girl and thinks it's like looks like his daughter, which it kind of does.
I never would have made it. This is my daughter, Kyoko.
Hello.
this whole scene, I was just like, okay, this is something. This is kind of funny. They're eating some food. Where's this gonna go? I didn't know where the scene was gonna go, and where it went.
Generally, I
got me
like these
hooked.
three main characters. I don't like the baby plot device. You don't use a baby as a friggin' plot device like this. But
It's amazing, isn't it? Seems like our little Kyoko is blessed with luck, don't you think?
now, there it is. Yes, I get. Murphy thinks I missed the point of this movie, which the point is that the God, because this is a very religious movie, God is protecting this baby. That's what Hana keeps saying. And like that's the point of this movie. So that's why it's supposed to be forgivable that there's like 20 Christmas miracles because it all focuses around this baby blessed
This
by
one
God.
scene,
But like
this one scene is good
that's
and troublesome
religiosity
in
is all
in two aspects. This one scene is really good and troublesome. One, it's good because it got me hooked in the story, and I felt like from this moment on, it was all just a compiling, like, where's this story going to go next? And I was hooked and enthralled. However, there is a plot hole in the scene where Jin says he recognizes the groom here for causing his debts and trouble, and he wants to kill the groom. And I was like, oh shit, Jin's gonna bust some heads here with this like bottle of wine, right? And then when he goes to attack him, and they're just like, oh wait, there's actually an assassin in the crowd, and he's gonna shoot this guy. I was hooked.
I'd still be with my wife and daughter.
Like, no, see that makes no sense. Why are these like? There's like 2 Latino characters in this movie. Like,
that's what I'm saying. This is one of the plot holes.
And one's like
this is one of the plot holes that was like, just like pushed to the side, and maybe it was like touched
a lot of
upon
things
in
were
news
pushed to the
reports.
side. One of the main plot threads through this movie that they pushed to the side is the fact that Hana is in love with Jin, and they never even come close to resolving that. Like, there's so many, like, and again, that's an anime thing. In anime, you can just throw anything in there and people will think it's great. I feel like people have blinders on when it comes to anime because they like the art style or something. I don't know. But everything's turned up to 20. Things don't make sense. You know what got me back into this movie, Murphy? And I was out. Like, again, I was out. At first, I was in. I was like, okay, I like these 3 main characters are kind of interesting. And then I was out because, again, they're using a baby as a plot device, and it's like it felt cliche and things I've seen before. But then they go to the hospital, and all of a sudden there's Freude schöne Gott Funken Tokte aus Elysium. Wird betreten freie Tranken himmlische dein Heiligtum. One of the best pieces of music and best poems ever written, Ode to Joy, just inexplicably shows up in this movie, and I was like losing it. I was like fading and probably not even looking at the screen, and all of a sudden that comes on, and I'm like, boom, I'm back. I'm in love with that fucking song. And honestly, the best thing on all the internets is the flash mob, where an orchestra surprises people by playing that. Like, it starts off as, have you ever seen that? Like there's this one guy with like a standing bass, and this little girl comes up and gives him a coin, and he starts to play Ode to Joy, and then just like every few seconds, someone else from the orchestra walks out into the street and joins it. And by the end, the conductor's there, and there's all of a sudden you realize that all these, like, half of these people that are watching this scene happen are actually the choral part of the orchestra. And all of a sudden, it's just boom! They're all doing Ode to Joy, and people are taking pictures. Kids are climbing poles to see it. Like, it's like the most human thing. Like, this very one of the peak moments of humanity is Ode to Joy, and anytime it's played, and that brought me back in. So I'm like, all right, I'm back. And then the movie actually got better from there. Like, the second half of this movie is better than the first half for sure.
Yeah,
And
it's deep. Like the scenes where they're like, where they're looking for the house. You know, he
how
ends
about that
up, like,
German? How was my German, Murphy? Not bad, eh?
That was good German. That was good German. It was good pronunciation. But like the scenes where like the old man comes across like this super old, like that scene where he comes across this old man.
Is he
like
supposed to be
laying in the
Santa
alley.
Claus?
I don't know if he's supposed to be
That's what
Santa
I
Claus
got.
or what.
Because he even
Is
says
that-
something. He's like, "You're not supposed to know who I am."
Oh, weird. I didn't really get that. I thought he
Yeah, I
see
think he's supposed to
when
be
he
Santa
first
Claus.
shows up, he looks like Jin laying in the street, like some sort. And I thought Jin was having some sort of outer body experience or something. And then he realizes it's like this old man who he proceeds to try and take care of. Only to
There's
have
no
him
other. If
die
he's
on
not Santa Claus, there's no reason for that old man to be in the movie.
I mean,
Like,
I guess
that scene just
he
didn't seem to make
gave
a
the
lot of
gift
sense. Because
of knowing the location of where the house was through the poster.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think he was Santa Claus.
All right, that's an interesting theory. I never thought about it that way.
It's
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, so basically through some of the series of events that happen, they end up getting stuck on a train where Miyuki sees her father and another train across, so she proceeds to like
Okay, I got to
bail
talk
out of
about
that
Miyuki
train.
and her father for a second. As a
Okay,
father,
yeah.
and again, maybe this is an anime thing because everything's turned up to 20. Her backstory doesn't make sense. Yes, she stabbed her father, but like
Over a cat.
over a cat, and of course he'd be pissed maybe in the moment. But honestly, they show that scene and he doesn't even look pissed. He just looks shocked. She thinks she can never ever go home because her policeman father will arrest her, even though she's
Yeah.
called him and doesn't really say anything, just listens to his voice. But he never sounds mad. He just always sounds worried about her because, as a father, he's just worried about his daughter. And so, like, that's unbelievable. That's not a believable story. Jin's story isn't believable. Yes, he had some gambling debts, but you don't have gambling debts and then just pretend your daughter and wife are dead. Like, none of these
Yeah,
stories are believable as humans because they're a cartoon and
yeah.
they're like Gremlins too. They're a parody of real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, so that's why I was in. Then I'm like, oh, that's silly. I'm out. Okay, I'm back in. Oh, did Joy play? Okay, no, that's stupid. I'm out. Like, in the
I don't know.
end,
See, for me,
I have
I
a
was
positive feeling about this movie, but barely.
so like for me, I was
Because it
I
does
was
have heart.
hooked from this
It certainly
movie
has heart.
I was hooked from this movie from the wedding scene. One of the scenes that like really surprised me was this scene with the ambulance. These guys are having a fight outside this like,
I hate the ambulance
convenience
scene.
store scene, and then
Yeah,
bam!
that's stupid.
That
Why
shit
did that
shocked
ambulance
me.
just crash out of nowhere? There's no
I
explanation
know it
for
doesn't.
that.
They're
It's
never
just like we
explain
need
it.
something to
There's little
explode,
explanation for these
and we
events.
need an action scene in an anime movie. Because if like things slow down for more than 5 minutes in an anime movie, somebody has to scream a line inexplicably, or something has to blow up. Like it's the inmates controlling the asylum. It's too much about the artist and not the story. That's my problem with anime. It's all about the visuals, and I just don't care. Like the visuals don't blow me away or anything. So like the story needs to be there.
Well,
It's
either way,
like I've
these three
though
events.
I will say other than Avatar: The Last Airbender and Boondocks, this is probably my favorite anime I've seen.
Oh, that's good to hear. Because like honestly,
I
I think
like
it
it, but
deserves
like
it.
most animes,
It's
I haven't like. I didn't like Akira. Everyone loves that. I didn't like that movie. Like,
yeah, that's a complicated mess. Anyway, listen. Tokyo Godfathers is me watching it from my perspective. Now that I've basically heard you go on,
I've been
my
rambling.
perspective of what? Yeah, you have, and yeah. So
I'm
anyway,
done now,
my
though. That was pretty
perspective.
much it.
I have okay. Well, I'll keep trying to say this. My perspective of the film was basically these enticing moments that I never really saw coming, which kept hooking me in. The art style was really great. I liked these serendipitous sort of what's that? Like the moments were like the one that really was like when they're walking and they're like talking about looking for the mom, and I think they're talking about suicide, and while they're talking about
They
somebody's
always talk
actively
about
committing
suicide in this
suicide,
movie. And that's
Well, I
maybe a
mean, yeah,
cultural
but
thing with Japan, but it's just like,
that's
oh, I'm having a bad day. Well, I guess I'm gonna commit suicide, or like that person had a
that's
bad day. They're
Japan.
probably committing
That
suicide right now. Like,
that's
like
that's
what
very
the?
much a cultural thing with
Again, maybe
Japan.
that's a cultural disconnect for me, but I don't need that.
Well,
Like,
I thought, the
there's
scene, the
things to
way
do
it was
first.
fucking Christ, Evan. The
I'll
scene
let
for
you
me,
talk.
the scene that I thought, like that bridge scene, I thought was enticing because this while they're walking and having this conversation, this woman's about to commit suicide, and they seem oblivious to it until they're not oblivious, and then they go stop her. And I love the timing and the pacing of that scene, and I love the timing and the pacing of a lot of scenes in this movie. It's stuff like that that I thought was really cool. And then when they go get
You
her,
comment on
that
that
woman's like,
scene. That scene could have been good, but again, it had to be just cause that happens to be the person they were looking for. Because every person they come across in this movie is the person they are looking for, the person they need to see at
well,
that
this is
moment.
this is
And that
getting to
just
the later
keeps
end of the
happening.
movie.
That scene is where I like had reached my capacity with the Christmas miracles. I'm like I saw that woman on the like by halfway through this movie, I could predict everything that was going to happen because it was so cliche just cuz. Like as soon as I saw that woman get up and stand on the side of the bridge, I'm like, "Oh, that's the baby's mother." Obviously, because the way
But
this
she
movie's
wasn't the
written, that's
baby's mother, though.
obviously the baby's mother.
But she wasn't the
No, if it
baby's
wasn't the
mother.
baby's mother, it could have just been a comment on like on suicide and that sort of things and just like the
But no,
downtrodden.
okay,
Like
all right.
like
Well,
the main characters are. But instead, it had to be an
Will you?
obvious thing. Yeah, go.
Okay,
Yeah, let me
so
finish my sentence first, Murphy. Yeah.
that's fair. That's fine. The thing is, that woman who we in this scene are led to believe she's the baby's mother, and those who are like, oh, we
Which of
found
course
the
she
baby's
is.
mother.
Yeah.
And it
There's
turns
two
out she's
twists.
actually not. She's a crazy fake
Yeah.
lady who's going through.
Yeah.
Well, not crazy fake. She's the
But
fake
she
mom,
was
but she's
the baby's mother they were looking for. She's the exact
she was the one
person
they
they
were
were looking
looking
for,
for, but
except Poochie or whatever her name was.
she was actually a kidnapper. She stole the
Yeah.
baby from the hospital, and like
That twist
now
worked.
you've got this suicidal woman holding this baby, and I was tense as hell through
Yeah.
that whole scene.
Me too,
Every
because again, it's a
moment,
baby, and I'm like, I don't want anything to happen to this baby. It's just a plot device. Again, the baby was just a plot device.
right?
They throw the
And
baby
as
off a
that tense,
building. They throw a baby
and
into
that
a car crash. They throw the baby like
well, as the tensity of that scene was building, as she's running with the baby, and you're like, what's she gonna do? And she's getting up to the top of the building. I'm like, oh, I know what happens when these people go to the top of the building. They're gonna fucking jump. And the fact that she gets to the edge, and I'm watching the scene like, oh, Miyoki's gonna grab her or something, and she's not. She's getting the edge, and she's about to jump off. But then her boyfriend stops her. But then she's like, goes for it anyway. Then Miyoki jumps and grabs her, and it's like. These like compounding is just like
again,
it's
that
got me
was
on the
too
edge of my
convenient.
seat.
Oh, the boyfriend just happens to be there. Like everybody just
It's not.
always
He
happens
did
to
just
be.
happen to be there. He saw her
Yes,
on
he
the TV.
did.
No, dude, he saw her on the TV, so
So he
he's like,
saw
"Oh,
her
I
on
got to go
TV,
down
and
there."
30 seconds later, he was there.
Well, it wasn't. It could have been 30 seconds, but time jumped
No,
throughout this
it was
film.
less than 30 seconds.
This film starts on Christmas Eve and ends on New Year's Day, so there's some time jumping happening in this film.
No, but the camera angle on that character was just while she was on the roof. She walks on the roof for a few seconds, then the cameras in the helicopter spotlight hits her. That's when the boyfriend sees her, and by the time 10 seconds later she reaches the edge of that roof, the boyfriend's there to talk to her.
Maybe
Like
he's around
everything,
the corner.
like there's a
I
lot of
think you're getting hung
bad
up on
writing
these
in this.
on these
No, there's a
little
lot of
bits
bad.
because like
Yes,
the
because there's
intensity
like
of that
50
final
of them.
scene was amazing. The
No,
intensity of that final scene was amazing. From the
All I'm
moment
saying
she
is this
walked onto the
movie
roof
could
to
have
the
been a
moment 3 people caught her, and Hana has the baby and he's holding onto a ribbon like Jackie Chan, and he's floating down because I've seen Jackie Chan do that
that
shit
was
multiple
horrible.
times. Come on,
But
you
Jackie
can't say
Chan
it's
movies
not
are
possible.
comedy parodies.
But he does it. You've seen him grab ribbons and fall down buildings, so you know it's a possible thing for somebody to do.
Yeah, it's Crouching
right?
Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But like that's not believable shit.
Like legitimately, he was falling down, and then of course the wind picks up. God comes in, blows it, and gives it a rise, and there's sunrise, and that's like
Because God
basically the
shows up like
crescendo
50
of.
times in
That's
this
the
movie.
crescendo of miracles in this movie. After a litany of miracles, that's the crescendo of
Yes, a
miracles.
litany of miracles.
Yes, and it was a movie about miracles. That's what this movie is about. That's what Tokyo
I
Godfather
understand that.
2003 is a movie is about. So
I just feel like if you
that
took
being
like
said,
a lot of this movie and gave it to a writer who's not involved in anime, it would have been way better. Like someone who tried to make it more realistic. I think it
well,
would have been better. Because there's a lot of things I like about this movie. If this movie was done as even a live action movie about these three homeless people, it would have been better. Like I don't need
all
all
right.
the crazy anime shit to take me out of it.
All right, that's fair. I think you'll probably be interested to hear one of the
Give this
few
to Joe
more
Dante.
I picked up of this.
Give this movie to Joe
Well,
Dante.
hang on. Let's wrap this. Let's wrap this up. We're running long. So, which scene would you say?
Yeah, we
held
ran long
up
tonight.
this movie?
Are we there? Oh, we are there. Look, I like a lot of scenes in this. Look, I wanted to like this movie more. Like because there's things here that are really good, but man, I feel like this movie was trying to make me not like it the entire time. I'm like, even though it was cliche how he found his daughter, Jin talking to his daughter for the first time in all these years was kind of impactful. Though again, Hana ruins that by just being super anime and like big expressions and big yelling and all that shit to like break up that moment.
But I mean, you
Before then,
can't.
it was, and that's when Ode to Joy happens too. So Ode to Joy happens, and then he sees his daughter. So that whole thing
That
ran
general
me back
scene.
to it
Well,
for
to
a
be
bit.
fair, Hana, I feel, had the right to blow up because Jin basically fed a bunch of bullshit that didn't turn out to be true, and Hana was like, "Wait, you've been lying to me." So I feel like he had the justification to be angry at
If
this.
you're a
A bit over
narcissist, that
cartoonish.
moment had nothing to do with Hana. What a
I know
narcissist
it
that
didn't have
kid
anything to do with Hana, but like he figured out that Jin was lying to him. He could have brought it up at another time for sure, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
I think the
Miyaki. Is
scene
that
that
her
hold
name?
up for
Miyaki?
me,
Miyaki? Is that the other?
Miyuki.
Miyuki? Yeah, she even says
Yeah.
that to him. She's like, "What the shit did you say that then? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?"
I liked Miyuki's jabs and barbs. The scenes that
Yeah,
held up
she
for
was
me,
good. Her
I
just
enjoyed
story
the
didn't make sense.
scene. I enjoyed the scene with Miyuki and that angel mom where like they're in like the suburbs.
Oh, the Latino lady.
The Latino mom and they're like communicating even though they can't entirely understand each other
Yeah, that
and
was
getting
interesting.
along. Like I like that scene. I
Yeah, see, that was
also
more
a big
realistic, that
fan of
scene. Mhm.
yeah, I was a big fan of the climax, like the ultimate climax scene, and I also like the scene, like I said, with Jin where he discovered the old Santa Man. I thought it was really trippy and weird, and it gave me Paprika vibes, and I was about that. I loved Paprika, which is one of the films we'll be covering at some point, which is also a Satoichi Kon film, so similar art style. So get used to it.
Satoshi Kon.
Yeah. What performance would you say held up for this film? Jin? Yeah. Yeah. Jin, I would agree with Jin. Jin's held strong.
Jin's the character that least removed himself from reality for me. Like, his story, though a bit ridiculous, but again, like, I guess that's possible where somebody is so overwhelmed by debt. But again, it doesn't make sense because he's just like, oh, I have all this debt. I have to leave my family. It's just like, yes. So now that you've left your family, now your family has to pay your debts. You've only made it worse, you ding dong. Like, that's really stupid. But
yeah,
like the acting was good. I liked that voice actor, even though I'm reading it in subtitles. He was quite good.
Yeah, no, you could tell the emotion conveyed was really strong. Yeah, I liked him. I thought Hannah, like honestly, the three main characters were pretty solid. Miyuki was the weaker of the three, but that's because her backstory was essentially the weaker of the three as well. So yeah, they held
I
it
think
together.
I think Hana was the weakest of the three, just because she was the most like, or she. I don't know.
She.
What did Hana consider herself? She. Okay.
Yeah.
Was the most like overdone, the most kind of turned up to 20 in that
Well, I
character.
mean, you
But
know,
the
she's a
least
performer,
realistic as a
so
character. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
To a degree. So I've got a fun movie morsel about that character. But yeah, what did you think of the setting and aesthetic?
It was good. It looked good. It was a
Yeah.
good looking movie.
Yeah.
Other
Gorgeous
than like the
styling.
things I said I don't enjoy about anime, which is the over animation of like emotion and things, which I don't need. Like that just takes
Yeah.
me out of things. It's like I don't need you to zoom in on somebody so for them to go for like inexplicably. Like that's such an anime trope. Like
It's more or less to emphasize certain feelings or characteristics or
yeah,
reactions.
they're just
Really.
overemphasized, and that's like
Yeah.
a trope of the medium of the anime medium. Everything's just overdone slightly, and I get that. Like people enjoy that, so keep doing it. It's just not for me.
All right, cool. Well, then I
Like
guess it's time
I
to
find
get on.
Boondocks and Avatar don't do that so much. Like Boondocks will do it for laughs on occasion, but for the most
No, I
part,
don't
they
know when was the
don't do
last
that.
time
Like
you watched
certainly Avatar: The
Avatar.
Last Airbender, yeah, I don't find it
No,
does
there's.
that.
When was the last time you watched Avatar: The Last Airbender?
It's been a few years.
There you go. I've watched it fairly recently. Like I watch reactors react to it for the first time sort of recently, and like it's fairly cartoonish. There's a lot of outlandish art drawing and
Yeah, that
and
could be.
acting.
I just really enjoy the humor in that show.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the movie morsels. So Tokyo Godfathers 2003 movie, the number 1225, the date of Christmas, appears throughout the film. The number on the key ring, the cab fare, 12,250 yen, a stopped alarm clock, and the address in the newspaper ad, and as well the cab license plate.
Now, is Christianity this big in Japan? Like, I'm sure they sent missionaries over there, but this is a very Christian movie for a Japanese movie. This is like literally the most Christian movie since the Ten Commandments.
I don't know the level of
It so
Christianity
is.
and just honestly speak on that. So
Yeah. Like, I know there is a certain Christian element in China and probably Japan as well, but I'm surprised that they lean so heavily into it in this movie.
So you'll find this interesting. This movie is an extremely loose remake of the 1948 film Three Godfathers, an American West story produced several times since 1916 and in development again as of August 2020. Yeah, I don't know much about
2 years since 2020. What happened with that?
Yeah, I don't think that movie actually panned out. So maybe I should
Yeah,
have
it
double
doesn't
taken
seem like
on
it.
it.
Someone probably said 20 Christmas miracles. No, we're shutting this down.
Yeah. The name of the Yakuza boss that the protagonist saved is Ota, the same name that was written on the grave where Jin got the sake in the previous scene. And since Ota later states in the conversation in the car that he went down to the old man's grave, this shows that the sake that Jin stole and drank was actually Ota's offering to his late father. Yeah. Yakuza boss Ota's car number is 8893. In Japan, 893 is a number that represents the Yakuza in a cryptic way in modern times, and is actually said to be the origin word of Yakuza, because adding 8 ya, 9 ku, and 3 za gives us 0 for first place, which is the lowest score in a Japanese card game similar to Baccarat. In this film, buildings that look like faces appear in over a dozen scenes, sometimes representing the feelings of the characters. Satoshi Kon describes this in his Tokyo Godfathers miscellaneous notes as follows. When I bought my new digital camera, I started taking pictures of such faces of the buildings for fun, but I thought it would be of a shame to let it end up as just a hobby, so I decided to use them in this film as a symbol of the pantheistic gods, the 8 million gods that have existed in Japan since ancient times. And the last movie morsel, we've got Japanese comedian Yoshiaka Umagaki, who played the voice of Hana in Japanese original cast, also played the voice of Big Gay Al from South Park in 1997.
What?
On stage, he frequently sings the song Mauvais Garçon, which is also sung in this movie, while blowing off the beans stuffed in his nostrils with nasal breath. This was his signature performance even before he appeared in this movie.
Thanks for asking. That's him?
That's him.
That's hilarious.
This film had a budget of $2.4 million and made a box office of $847,106.
Jeez, it lost money. That
Yeah,
made no money.
Yeah, cinematography, Katsu.
Well, it has its problems, man. It has its
and
problems. You
edited
can
by
see how like a bad opinion sort of could circulate about this.
Yeah, and the film was edited by Takeshi Siyama and Kashika Kimura. And those are the movie morsels for our loving Tokyo Godfathers. Bada bing, bada boom. Rewatchability? Yeah, I think it's got rewatchability. I thought it was a beautiful film, and I would definitely watch that again. It's probably honestly one of my favorite Christmas films, I think. What do you?
I don't think I can watch it again. There's too many things I don't like. I don't like the baby as a plot device where there's just this miserable baby the whole time. Like, there's just things I'd rather not sit through again.
Mm-hmm.
And too many of the good moments were squandered by stupid things. Where I don't think I'd want to sit through that again. Now, see, that's funny because I wouldn't watch it again, but if we would ask ourselves, does it measure up? I would probably say, yeah, it's pretty good. But I'd never want to watch it.
I think this movie measures up, and I think this movie holds up. Which, to be fair, I get the measure up, hold up metronic, but I think we should just consider them if these films just all hold up in general, because that can apply to recent movies as well. To be fair, it's like, what exactly are we measuring up to? Are we measuring this movie up to the ones we watched previously? Because if
what
so,
is it? How are we asking? Does it hold up if it came out last year?
Well, it didn't come out last year. It came out in 2006.
Does it age that well in 10 months? No, but like, say you pick a newer movie, and we ask, does it hold up? It's like, well, did it last 10 months? Or like,
I would say if the film has come out in the past 10 years, then it should be considered measure up status.
Okay.
If it's post 2000, early 2000s, whatever, it could still be considered does it hold up. So in the category, we'll still go with measure up, but I think this movie also holds up as well. So yeah.
God, I'm so mixed on my opinion there. I feel like I should say it doesn't just to get revenge about Gremlins, but I'm not like that. Like, there's no way Gremlins is a B movie if this is an A movie. Like, that makes no sense. Gremlins is by far the better movie in every way.
Gremlins is like a B+ movie.
Then so is Tokyo Godfathers.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to say no, it doesn't.
That's
I wouldn't watch it again.
That's fair. I would.
I didn't hate this movie. For an anime, I was surprised at how little I disliked it. But again, I disliked a lot. So, I don't know.
That is what it is. That is the joy of this podcast, sir.
It's true. I think I probably would have liked it better before I was a parent. But
I think potentially, yeah. I think being a parent made it harder to watch because you could envision.
It's just seen shitty parental decisions over and over again in this entire movie. I'm just like, and again, the biggest problem for me is the coincidences in the just cause. There's just too much. Like, I feel like I don't know who wrote this movie. I think Satoshi Kon did a good job directing it.
Wrote the movie.
Did he write it as well? Well, I don't think he's a great writer necessarily. It felt quite like unfinished. It's just like if you would have passed this script over to like
I want to see how
to a
loosely
Joe Dante character, he'd be like, okay, here's what we have to change to make this good.
I want to see how loosely based this off of Three Godfathers. I'm
Yeah,
intrigued to
it'll be
find out what the
interesting.
movie's about and sort of compare. I don't know. I thought it was a fun, entertaining film, and the last hour of it had me gripping and on the edge of my seat. So yeah.
Rankings for me: Gremlins at the top, then this one, and then I don't even want to talk The Apartment.
Yeah, it's I would say it's Tokyo Godfathers, Gremlins, and the Apartment was god awful.
We agree on that. We started off in agreement, and then we started to fight. And
we
then
devolved so
when we
quick.
fight, we get an extra hour on the podcast. I've noticed.
It's true. It's true. We're trying to keep this within a certain time frame, and it's like, well, we're going off the rails here. Let's see if we can.
Our 2-hour episodes are quite cordial. If you see a 3-hour, expect.
Yeah, we're getting into it.
Yeah. So we have our A movies thus far. Like, I think Gremlins should be there, but so far we only have Matinee, The Wolfman, Werewolf by Night, and Soylent Green. We've had 2 B movies, unfortunately, to add to the list tonight. We have The Tingler, An American Werewolf in London, Logan's Run, Gattaca, Southland Tales. That's so not a B movie. That's a piece of shit. And Medicine Man, and now Tokyo Godfathers and Gremlins.
Yeah.
I think having Gremlins as a B movie like delegitimizes our whole podcast. But anyway, our C movies: The Majestic, I Heart Huckabees, and now The Apartment. Those are 3. Well, you know what? Majestic is so much better than those other 2 movies, but still not great. But it's much better than I Heart Huckabees and The Apartment. We'll give Majestic a C+.
Yeah.
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 In Southland Tales, a B-.
Okay, I'm fine with that. If you want to give it a B-, we can give it a B-. I'm just saying that movie, I remember being terrible, but when I rewatched it, it was better than I remembered.
It's still terrible, but less terrible.
But yeah, it's still a bad movie. I'm not going to deny that, but it had incredible moments, and it's actually kind of genius in some ways.
No, people throw the word genius around too much these days. Like, there's like 100 geniuses on this whole planet. Stop calling people friggin' geniuses. Like, good damn. It makes me crazy.
Fair enough.
Now all you have to do is write some shit pop song that people wouldn't even listen to 20 years ago, and you're a genius.
Man, don't you know AI is going to make the pop songs now?
People call Kanye West a genius, and he's possibly the stupidest person on the whole goddamn planet. Like, people are so... Anyway.
You're not wrong there. You're not wrong there.
No.
We need to wrap this up.
The word genius has no meaning. Yeah, we're done. Let's get out of here.
We're done.
Do we want to promote the brands?
Of course.
That shit?
We always have to have, that's the contractual obligation of the United Federation.
We are contractually obligated because we're in the United Federation of Podcasts. So we have many shows in this wonderful federation, most less contentious than this one. We're kind of the angry stepchild of the United Federation.
We're here for the spicy chili. If you want spicy chili, come to Hold Up, a movie podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. I have more podcasts. I have the X-Rated the Animated Review Show. We just did an amazing interview with Alison Seeley-Smith, the voice of Storm. That was my early Christmas present, Andre says, even though I bought it for myself. But it was a great interview. She's an awesome person, and quite inspiring. Andre, my co-host on that, has the Graphic Histories podcast. He's about to I forget the guy's name. Blythe, something like that, maybe. Anyway, a cameraman who did a lot of movies.
Gotta make clip notes for these outros so we can remember names on the fly.
Well, I usually remember this stuff. But yeah, so this guy did work on The Shining and a lot of other cool stuff. I'm sure Andre will have a great interview there. Andre can get a good interview out of anybody. Not to say this person isn't fascinating, but Andre gets good interviews out of people.
If you want to know the inside briefs on The Shining, check out Graphic Histories.
Yes, exactly. KBBL. That'll be on Friday. We'll be on episode 4 of The Simpsons. Yeah, we're starting it. It's hard to even talk about episode 4 of The Simpsons since there's like 10,000 episodes now.
I mean,
we do that. Me, Francis, and Baker. It's a fun time.
Get that
It's always an hour or less. That's a short one for a United Federations of Podcasts podcast. Probably the shortest.
What's the extra B for this new episode?
I don't find that out until Francis tells me what it is. That's on Franny.
I see.
Franny comes up with the B's. The last one was bring me presents because it's almost Christmas. Franny wanted presents.
Fair enough. Beer?
Yeah. Also, he'll always accept beer. As will I. Yeah, well, like beer's part of this show. We recommend beers every episode, and we're basically making a drinker out of Baker. He doesn't drink.
Nice.
And we're all like, yeah, don't become us, but he may.
We got Super Mater Brothers coming up in half an hour. The season finale of Survivor. Good golly, Miss.
Where we find out if the fix was in with Superfan Sam, and there's going to be a Gilligan's Island podcast. So we'll find out. Nobody at the United Federation of Podcasts wants a Gilligan's Island podcast.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
It may happen anyway. Oh man, I'm never going to be on it. I'll tell you that much.
I think we should be on it just for jokes. At least one episode.
Well, I do that. I crash a lot of the podcasts in this federation.
Speaking of which, look, Cuter's a trek.
You may even crash this one if I'm up in an hour's time, just because I've never shown up on a Survivor podcast. And I might be like, who won? Did Sam win? Yeah, we have Live Long and Podcast. We do a lot of Star Trek content. We're a lot of Star Trek lovers here. We have look at that handsome bunch. That's a handsome bunch of Star Trek lovers right there. Look at Murphy there, looking very stoic. And Murphy, are you saying stuff? It doesn't say you're muted, but you have no volume. So here's the Command Division, where they do the episode reviews. There's the Ops Division, where we do Star Trek Radio Theater. Star Trek 5 coming up on Friday. We're doing that as a radio theater. Murphy is Kirk. That's good casting. This one is good casting. I looked at the cast when Dave sent it to me. I'm like, oh, we got some good casting here, Dave.
Yeah, it's going to be solid casting. Can you hear me now?
Yep. There's also the Science Division. That's kind of I'm sort of the captain of the Science Division. We do deep dives. We talk smart about Star Trek. I sound like an angry idiot on Hold Up, but when I'm talking to my science brethren, we can get into it. That's also our little side brand, Locutors of Trek, where we do things like we do thematic lenses. We shine Star Trek through thematic lenses and talk about Star Trek in the real world as well. And we try to find how we can make the real world more like Star Trek. And we do Trackle Trunk and stuff too. We review comics and we do some fun stuff. There's lots of games, but that's more. I've moved those over to the Science Division. So, trivia. There's debate games. Debate 9. Debate 9 coming up on Sunday. Maybe I got to get confirmation from the contestants, but there could be a Debate 9 on Sunday. And we just did a Trouble with Trivia. That was fun. And we did a Geek Tall Challenge. We have a Klingon host on occasion. There's also Trivial Debates coming up on Sunday, I believe.
Sunday, yeah. December 17th.
Crap. Oh, yeah, but that's in the morning. So, yeah, I can do that. And I'm going to be a contestant with Max Duda and Sterling Slowcock Bennett. I've never met this guy. But
hailing all the way from Australia. International talent.
Max Duda have locked horns before. So it'll be a bit of a rematch of sorts. And Cousin Dave's the host. Cousin Dave robbed me of a victory one other time on Trivial Debate, so we'll see how this goes.
Christmas theme episode with Christmas questions.
Yeah. And also
Hellbound podcast.
There's a rectangle version of the Hellbound. Didn't even notice. This is a new logo. All right. Yeah, the Hellbound podcast. Check that out with Alex Blackburn and Michael Chan.
Sometimes Jessica Chan.
Sometimes Jessica Chan. You haven't had me on the show yet. I don't know what that's all about, but that's fine.
I think your time will come soon.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess that's all of our podcasts on this wonderful federation. Until me and cousin Dave start up the Mary Mater Marvel Society, which will happen eventually.
God, we gotta work on that name. We gotta work on
No,
that
it's
name.
perfect.
It's gotta be a better
No, it's
name.
perfect.
There's gotta be a better
No, it
name.
can't be. We
There's
call it
gotta be a
MMMS.
better
If
name.
you, that's why we have acronyms, Murphy. That's why acronyms are why Dave and I invented acronyms. Okay.
Specifically for that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well.
All right, we're out of here.
Yeah, we got to get out of here. We're gonna leave you guys with the coming attractions for our next episode, which is gonna be a.
Oh, this is our longest episode ever, Murphy.
This is our longest episode. I was hoping to get this under 2 hours, but we just had to go at it. We just had to get heated. We just had to get spicy. But you know what we had to do, Davan? We had to enjoy the movies. And we hope that you...
Well, not Apartment.
Well, not Apartment, but, you know, we enjoy ripping on the movies just as much as we enjoy watching the movies. And we hope you enjoy watching the movies, too. Thank you for joining us for this Held Up podcast. And... we'll never talk about the Apartment ever again. Until then, you guys have a great night. Enjoy the movies and enjoy these coming attractions.
Can we talk over these?
We can if we want to.
What is our theme? I forgot. What's next?
Parties.
Oh, parties. Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know, 1962 had to be the best year of my life. I was a member of Delta Tau Chi.
Wow, wow.
Deltas.
You gotta go.
Bunch of guys.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba.
Look at that legend. John Belushi.
Hoover.
The HBO documentary is magnificent and should be watched.
Flounder.
Oh, wow.
D-Day. Boone.
It's not gonna be an orgy. It's a toga party.
And look at me in 62. The Otter. School was fun in those days.
The Otter.
The girl. The party.
Toga! Toga! Toga!
Toga.
The friendships. The girls. Of course, we had our problems.
Find me a way to revoke Delta's charter.
Super special probation. It's no super secret probation. Yeah, yeah.
You're out. Finished at Faber, expelled. I want you off this campus at 9 o'clock Monday morning. Let's go!
I've never actually watched this movie.
I haven't seen it in probably 15 years, but I've seen it more than once. I think I was the villain in Ernest Goes to Camp, another movie I love.
National Lampoon's Animal House, starring John Belushi, Tim Matheson.
Would you go out with me?
And Donald Sutherland as Jennings.
Yeah.
Now, was Milton
Nova
saying
Scotia's own.
being bad is more fun than being good?
Nova Scotia's finest right there.
Lampoon's Animal House.
Now this one I haven't seen in probably 25 years. I used to watch House Party as a little kid. So it's going to be way different to me now.
Barely remember it.
I used to love Kid and Play movies, man.
Every little step you take will be around this bedroom tonight. Did you hear anything about a party tonight?
Class Act was another one.
Hello, Tawatha. Do I feel like being bothered with Tawatha? Hello, LaDonna.
booming.
Yo, baby, you looking real good. Step off.
This is the movie that made Martin Lawrence.
Kick it, Pop.
What you got to say now, punk?
How much more trouble can I get into?
Hey, Eraserhead.
Look, I'm in prison.
Just do me a favor. Don't pick up the soap.
Wait till I find him. I'm gonna kill him.
Yo, y'all look who fell into the gig.
Hey, this ain't Soul Train.
Oh man, I can't wait to watch this again. It's been so long. I don't even remember most of it.
So where we're on our way to? The house party. What? The house party. Jay ain't going to that damn
House party.
That's all to it. I don't give a damn what you say.
You're making me a social misfit.
Y'all,
Oh man, that movie, that's a good
What'd you
movie.
I just asked if y'all are getting ready.
Yeah, I just called an Uber. You coming?
I'm not sure yet.
Oh, no, I'm sure yet.
Why is Colin so hard?
Oh, I love Colin.
What is this movie?
I feel like I'm just like
It's called Shithouse.
Ouch.
You're trouble, aren't you?
I'm trouble?
You okay?
Yeah, I'm just not feeling well, and it's super frustrating. Am I not allowed to sleep here?
No, you can. Am I like keeping you up?
Oh no, I wasn't sleeping.
Do you want to like go hang out?
Yeah, I'd love to. So you're a sophomore, right?
Yeah.
Did you have a tough first year?
What do you mean, like adjusting?
Can I tell you a secret? I have 0 friends. Like you could say my roommate is a friend. Sam, we need to get up.
I didn't do nothing.
Dropped a deuce in our room, man. But we hate each other and aren't friends. I have a final tomorrow.
Do you want to work together? Which final?
History. The 18th century.
Paint?
Hey.
Hey. Sorry. Do you mind if I just get past you?
Oh my god, you sent her so many messages.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey. See you.
Are you sure that was the girl?
Yeah.
It just seems like she didn't know that you existed.
Why do you want to just go back to what you were doing?
Did you think we were gonna date because of one night?
Tonight, we're making new friends. Let's get outside the comfort zone.
Maggie is outside of my comfort zone, though.
What I've realized is that I haven't fully been here.
College is the most selfish time of your life. The agenda here is not to learn how to be a great friend.
What is the agenda? Figure out who you are.
Figuring out who you are separate from other people.
This movie looks terrible.
Oh my God.
If you're not
so
14.
bad at pitching. I know.
Well, it's a very coming of age film, which we'll talk about in the next episode. Good night.